So, hey, I want to give a quick disclaimer to this podcast episode and what you're about to listen or watch if you're on YouTube. We dive into faith a little bit more than normal. And I'm interviewing today a great American farmer, Jason Womack, whose faith is forged in the Bible Belt. And that's a community of incredible people and hardworking people. But his faith is forged in that community. But you contrast that with a guy who was a default pastor in downtown Atlanta in Little Five Points. And my faith was forged a little differently. And so we see faith differently. And you're going to see some of that come out. And there's opinions of it and different things that happen. But, man, we still have this incredible conversation, this incredible love for each other. But it's partly because we have an incredible love for Jesus who deeply loves us. Now, if you're outside the faith and you're watching this, you're going to go, hey, maybe this isn't my podcast. I would encourage you to lean in because I get it. I embrace your unbelief. If I had all the experiences you've gone through in life, I would probably feel the exact same way you do. But I think it's healthy for us to have difference of opinions. It's healthy for us to see that we can talk about things and come out on the other side still being friends. And so I hope you enjoy this episode. It's not the only thing we talk about. This is a 3-hour episode. Ain't nobody got time for that. I get it. Break it up in pieces, but you're going to see part of the faith, but then you're going to hear about family, you're going to hear about football, and you're going to hear about hard work and fatherhood and so many other incredible life lessons that I think can benefit your soul. So thanks so much for watching. And let's get to the show.
This is What the Hell Do I Know with JB. JB, your friendly late-stage midlife husband, dad, and self-diagnosed ADHD connoisseur. This is all about candid conversation with friends, colleagues, and professionals, unpacking life's lessons and having a damn fun time doing it. And hey, sometimes we're going to veer off topic. But isn't that what makes life interesting? Let's talk about taking the good parts and leaving the bad. Because life's too short for unnecessary baggage. This is What the Hell Do I Know with JB. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, man. That thing gets me jazzed up every time, man. Every time it gets me jazzed up. We're back. So thank you so much, all the listeners listening in and following along this journey. We're back now for episode 14. It feels like a little bit of time. I mean, I had to look at everything as I was looking at this board here, this soundboard, and had to rediscover how to do stuff.
Forgot, yeah.
We shoot so many podcasts. Those of you following along probably know that we shoot. I mean, life goes at you 1,000 miles a minute, so we shoot sometimes 2 or 3 podcasts, and so we can go on vacation and do our jobs.
Yeah, you've been gone for.
I've been gone for a hot minute. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that, but I want to first thank all the listeners that have been hanging around with us on this journey and this discovery, because it means so much to me. You don't realize how much it means to me when I hear from you and I talk to you on the street or I run into you. It just means so much. I guess that these jabronis to my left, both Juice and Bmoney, it probably means something to them too, but they're kind of cold-hearted, so you never know.
Yeah, I didn't even know you were gone until you got back.
You left?
Yeah.
I left. So we just crossed over 8,000 subs. That's what the kids are saying. 8,000 subs on YouTube. Going on for real? I mean, it's insane. It's
all the Indiana talk, I think.
Oh, yeah. It is. Well, yeah, I'm telling you.
Hey, you got a basketball team this year.
We had, in fact,
we're gonna for 20 years.
We're gonna have a pod between this one. There will be an episode between this one. But if you went back a couple episodes ago when we had our boy Jay Money, Justin on, Jay Smooth, no Silent H. When we had him on, though, he brought in more, I think, Indiana folks than the Hoosier folks. I mean, we may be a Purdue-based.
I get it.
Show now. Yeah. We may be.
You want to get in a hot tub after this?
Oh, my gosh. Meanwhile.
That is so good. But, in fact, I was getting my hair cut. Alan, who has been on our show before as well, he was telling me a story about somebody came into town, a friend of his from New Orleans, might have even been a relative, came into town. He was taking him around. He wanted to show him some of the houses out in this area where we live. And so he came by, and I guess his cousin is following our podcast. So, or his friend. I'm getting this story wrong. So if you're listening to this, I really apologize for not knowing your exact relationship to Alan. But he said, hey, by the way, this is Jason's house here. And he goes, Jason, who's Jason? He goes, the other podcast you're following, He goes, oh, JB. And so it's just so funny because I tell people all the time that what the hell do I know with JB sounded better than what the hell do I know with Jason Becker. But I had only 3 people in my life that ever called me JB.
Yeah.
And so when I'm out on the streets now, more people are saying, hey, JB.
You're looking around
I'm like, who's
JB? Yeah. That's when they say Jason. I'm like, what?
But do me a favor. If you are enjoying this, which I would like to think you are, or maybe you just want to see this train wreck happen, and that could be good too, share this pod with someone, and let's spread some positivity out in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Let's spread something that's different. I mean, we've got something I think that's funny, it's cool, and it's some different things. I think there could be a nugget that you get from each episode. I think this episode is going to be off the chain good. I'm super excited about it. Before I introduce my guest, who you see here, Jason Womack, I'm going to introduce him formally and properly. But yes, and our show sponsor is Holyland Farms today. You can find it at holylandfarms.org. That's holylandfarms.org. Holyland Farms is not just a physical space. It is a manifestation of love, a love that is shared by all those who are involved in its creation and those who will come to experience its peace. Got to go check out Holyland Farms. Really great spot. We're going to put the website up there, and you can check it out. But you guys aren't quite ready because today I'm so excited we have Jason Womack here, the founder of Holyland Farms. With us, you are also a true American farmer. I mean, you are like the heart of the earth, man. You have red oak turf, is that right? Red oak turf. Right. You provide some of the best sod around the state of Georgia or anywhere. Is it only the state of Georgia, or are you shipping sod
just
everywhere?
Wherever, anywhere in the Southeast.
We're going to dive into this. We're going to dive into your sod stuff, but you've got the sod. I also hear you have accolades as a peanut farmer as well. We're going to dive into that too, and you raise cattle,
right?
We're going to dive into all that. I'm so excited about it. Listen, I admire anybody that can take something from dirt and make it good.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me.
I don't know if we make it good, but we try.
I mean,
so
I have AstroTurf in my backyard.
Right.
I have a beautiful putting green.
We should fight against that a good bit, but it's okay.
And I apologize already, but the best I can grow is a few weeds that will pop up in my AstroTurf from time to time. So, I mean, when and I'm looking at you guys, and I know the best you can grow is maybe some devil's lettuce when you were in college.
Dude.
But I mean,
well, that's Brandon.
What? Not in college.
It's Bmoney, man.
No.
Come on.
He's like, not in college.
That was all books, man.
He was all books. But I want to dive into all that. But before we do, it is time for new news. And so, does anybody have any new news?
I got a kid going to college. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. It's starting up like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I dropped my daughter off in 2 weeks. Yeah.
So you got 2 in college now.
Yeah. By the time this airs, we'll be probably dropping her off.
It's just a weird feeling in life.
It is. I got 2 gone. 2.
It sounded like they were just little bitty, and now they're going to college.
They're all in the house right now, which is cool. But it is too. It is. It's.
I feel like
weird.
I should be in college still. That's what's weird.
Yeah, I'm going to go reverse new news, and my daughter's teething.
Dude. You have the spit and everything.
Oh,
and
man, she's drooling like crazy.
What are you doing to control the pain? Are you doing
green onions? She chews on
green onions.
Wow.
Dude, what did you do? Any of that hurricane spreads or the teething tablets or any of those homeopathic sort of things like that? Or
we got.
I don't even know if those are.
Dora's got something, some sort of thing that she rubs on her mouth. But yeah, the green onions is a trick because it has a slight numbness to it, but it's not overpowering.
Yeah, so you're just basically
So she just sits there, she's chewing on it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, they're not laced with fentanyl or anything.
I don't think so. They're from.
That's good.
I got to check.
Probably from China.
Who's farming on that?
Publix.
Yeah,
I don't know where you grow green onions at around
China. Yeah, so you got to be careful.
Got
to be careful.
It's all good. I got a daughter senior year this year. That's
so you've got one coming.
Wow,
Yeah.
Looking at it like not long ago she was 3 and fixing to apply into Georgia, really wants to go to Georgia, really excited, and like, and I'm thinking 1996.
You're going back into where it was.
Wait a minute.
Not that long.
But what a blessing.
I was there at the same time. I graduated high school in 1995.
It's neat to see you kids and to, I think a lot of parents live vicariously through their children, which I think you got to be careful with that. But I see with my middle one, my oldest one, very intellectual, and our goal as parents is to do everything we can to help them chase their dreams. And I got a middle one that loves to sing really good at singing, and we went to Broadway, and she wants to be on Broadway. So for me,
that's huge.
South Georgia, farmer, New York City, Broadway, kind of like, wait a minute, what
What's happening?
Hey, if this is what you want to go do, I went into, I guess you can say anything you want here, but I went to the first gender neutral bathroom, and I walked in and a little, two little girls. I was like, hey, wait a minute.
You didn't know.
I was like, I can't do this. I was like, all good. And I was like, it's not all good. I don't.
You're not ready for it.
No, I wasn't ready for it.
But times they be changing.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, and then I went back in and went to go in a stall, and when I opened the door, a lady was coming. I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And I turned around. I was like, I got to go home. I got to get back to Georgia.
Was this in New York City?
New York City.
Yeah. Well, you remember that old commercial that was like the
sauce?
Sauce.
Yeah, the sauce.
You
ain't from Texas?
You ain't from Texas. This is New York City. You remember that? The Picante? I think it was Picante. What a great
I kind of made my man Woody Harrelson in New York, when I showed the movie. We saw.
Oh, I need to watch that again. That's like an 89 movie.
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson?
Old school. I can't remember the name of it. But it's kind of funny because I got
to take a look at it. What's the plot?
But I love Woody Harrelson, man.
He's a country boy that goes to New York, but I can't. There's a reason. I can't remember either. It's been a long time.
You're old. Was he in Cheers at that time?
Probably.
Yeah, wow, that's old. So he's young Woody. Probably older than we realized.
I think he's got a cowboy hat on, right? And he goes to New York.
Great. That's awesome.
That's cool.
But it was really cool.
It was a tough way back home.
Yeah. It's a reverse city.
I had to hire someone to drive us back. Planes got canceled.
Yeah, that was the day all the stuff happened on the internet. You were in Greece, but the internet shut down.
No. I heard all about it. I was so thankful. I had like 2 more weeks to in Europe. And so the new news, I'm back from the country. Listen, when you go over to Europe, I love seeing old things. I love hearing different perspectives. That's what this show's about. In fact, you were hitting on gender neutral or whatever and bathrooms and all that, but that's the thing, right? It's like, what the hell do I know? It's different, seeing different perspectives, hearing different perspectives, and figuring out how can we move together, because there's so much we can learn from each other going through this. I mean, I haven't experienced everything in life, and certainly I don't know everything you've gone through or Jason's gone through or the 3 Jasons up here today. So JJJ. But that is part of it, and I love Europe for that and seeing the different sides, and then of course the history. It's amazing history, but I will tell you, bro. I will tell you, there is nothing. And then listen, I know we have people overseas, and I love you. I do. I'm thankful that you watch here. And you should love your country and your culture. I would be super proud of it too. But I will test my country to yours any day. I love this country.
It's pretty fun here.
We were so ready to come back. The interesting thing is in Greece, great food, but it's Greek food. We were in Italy, great food. It's Italian food. You know what we have here? Diversity.
Yeah.
I can get Mexican. I can get Italian. Now it's not. Yeah, chicken wings. I got all these incredible things. I was telling somebody in Italy. I was telling about the buffalo. I was telling about Buffalo Jacks. They said that's such an American name, and I was like, no, it is a slamming wing joint, man. It is so good, and I want some Buffalo Jacks. So, shout out Buffalo Jacks, the greatest wing place in.
Send us over 3 dozen, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. But we do have some new news here. We are upgrading and building a new podcast studio.
Yes.
So because of your viewership and your participation in this, we are actually moving to a real studio, which this may look like a real studio, and you may think we're really professional, and I appreciate that. But we are going to take it even one more step. So I am really excited about that. We have so many things coming down the pipeline with that. So I can't say too much about it because I don't want to spoil all of our surprises. It's going to be several more episodes down, but
you've already said too much.
I probably said too much. Stop it now. You're right. That's it. Mm-hmm. No more. But it's going to be amazing. Keep staying. Keep watching. We hope to only get better. Tell me what you like and don't like too, because I want to hear that. So, but now it is time to play. What the hell do I know? So Jason, I'm going to put you on a clock. I'm going to ask you 7 questions, rapid succession. You just answer as fast as you can. You can pass any one. It's your game. There's no gotcha questions here, so I'm not going to throw anything out at you like.
Have you ever had anybody just pass?
I've not had 7. I've not had 7, but I've had 1 or 2. So it could happen.
You're good. You're a Jason. You'll nail it.
You'll nail it. Yeah. I mean, you're destined for greatness with that name. Mm-hmm. So for sure.
I mean, Brandon's got to feel really small.
Tell me why.
The only guy
you can change your name to Jason at any point.
We got to.
I like Brandon. It's
J
not
Money.
that common. So.
J Money. What is your middle name by the chance?
Roger.
Okay.
So we not close because you're
Not
Michael.
close.
You're
Michael.
Michael, and I'm Aaron. So with AA Ron.
Yeah.
So here we go. I'm gonna put the clock on. no pressure, and you are on the hot seat. Number 1, favorite cut of beef?
Filet.
Nice. Number 2, your favorite vacation spot?
Out west, Montana.
Okay. I'll take it. Number 3, if you could go back in time to your teenage self and tell you one thing, what would it be?
Slow down.
I like it. I like it. I need to give him a ding. 4, did you name any of your cows? And if so, what was the favorite cow name you used or you've heard?
Nah, they were all for sale.
So no Betsy's?
None of that? We didn't have any Betsy's.
You didn't get attached to them?
No.
All right,
hurry up and get fat so we can be sold.
So I hear you played football at, is it at Valdosta State? Is that correct?
No, I didn't play at Valdosta State.
Okay.
No.
Okay. But you played football growing up?
Did play football.
And what position was your favorite position you played? Linebacker. Okay. What state has the greatest football team in the land?
Come on, man.
I mean, really? I told you.
It's always your background, right?
People need to know. People need to know. Come on, them dogs.
Yeah.
Final question. What do Florida Gator fans wear?
Jean shorts.
That's right, jean shorts, baby.
Tank top.
Jean shorts, baby.
Yeah, that's good.
Another acceptable answers would have been braces, retainers.
Yeah.
Hey, believe it or not, I have
blindly.
met some very, very upstanding, trustworthy, full of integrity Florida fans. So you know who you are out there. I'm gonna get all kinds of crap from this from my buddies.
That's all
that
good.
way.
They do the
they
same
know
thing
I'm ribbing
about
them.
Bulldogs,
That's
too.
right. They
But
know
they
I'm
wear
ribbing
jean
them.
shorts, dude.
Look, I can't help it.
But I'll
what
say
it is.
that, and because I love Tebow, I love what he stands for,
Sure,
and I
for
love
sure,
just his
for
mission
sure.
in life. And
Well, how could you not like Tebow?
Right, yeah, he's the real deal. And
in fact, it's
for-
the only thing I hated about Tebow is he went to Florida. You know, I mean,
But it's funny because my father played at Alabama, and my brother, that was always a dream of, I think, of all of us boys. I have 2 brothers, and I got hurt my senior year, so I wasn't able to finish playing. And then my brother played at Georgia.
Yes,
So it always made for good,
Right.
good conversations. And even today, people are like, so what's your favorite team? And I do love the Dogs. I love Kirby. Got some little kind of inside ties with.
Oh, we're going to dive into that. We're going to
Yeah.
dive into some Kirby ties, baby. We're going to dive into it.
For me, it's who does it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if the Florida coach is doing it right,
He also had Aaron
Kudos to you,
Hernandez.
brother.
Yeah, for
You know
sure.
what I
I mean, look,
Whoever it
you
is.
respect it. I mean, in the
Amen.
Southeast, look, if you're in the Southeastern Conference,
You're doing
I mean,
it.
you're going to have ribbing. We're all going to
That's
do
right.
it. I've got my top 3 hated teams, and I think the Dogs are on everybody else's list right now for sure if they weren't already. So I get it, and we go to games, we bark at you, and you do whatever it is, you buzz back. Or
no
whatever
point,
it is,
no points for second, but it's all good.
No points for second, baby. No points for second. I mean, it's nothing like being the natty, the national championship 2 years out of the last 3. I mean, well, let's just do it again.
Well, it should have went last year. Kind of got robbed on that one.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you
year,
couldn't say it any better. You couldn't say it any better.
The refs, I mean,
couldn't say it any better.
Took that play off.
But you are off the hot seat, so I want to give you kind of like a 30-second, 90 seconds, whatever you want to take here to give me kind of the helicopter view of kind of what you got going on with, I know you got a lot. We labeled out a lot, but if you want to give me just like overall picture of some of the highlights you want to hit on, I want to give you that chance right now. Who you are.
Yeah, so, I guess first and foremost for me is a goal and a desire to be a good husband and a good father.
Yeah.
Lord's blessed me with a wonderful wife and 3 beautiful kids, and I've always, pushed and promoted to those guys, you can be who. And, any of them would tell you, you can be whoever God's called you to be. And I really pushed that for my life. Moving back home, always had a desire to come home and help my father. Always had a unique relationship, and he always farmed, and I always enjoyed being out in agriculture with him. And at that time, farming was really tough, and he and my mom were a blessing to us. And so I moved home, and we started a turf farm. And then from there, shortly thereafter, maybe 5 years, the Lord really touched my life and turned my life around. And at that point, just things changed. Still stayed in farming, and always, I guess, had an entrepreneurial type spirit, whether it be with wanting to, buy a house, flip a house, buy land, renovate, develop, whatever it is. Always loved that and still have a passion for that. And that never changed, because that's who God created you to be. And so it's just it changes. I didn't realize at that time that when he started doing that through me, it was different than when I was doing it for me.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it amazing?
So,
I mean, that entrepreneurial spirit too, though, like it comes through as an American. I mean, not all Americans want to actually work and do, and do that.
Well, at one time in my life, I chased it.
It's amazing.
So it was, this is what, and then it became, even with that and afterwards, I was like, Lord, you've given me this desire to be in the turf business, or you've given me this desire to love farming, or you've given me this desire to see a piece of land and go, oh, well, you could do this or that. So I'm just, I quit looking for it. And I was like, if that's what you want me to do, you'll bring it.
Okay.
You created all this. So if it's what you want me to have and do.
It gets a lot easier.
Yeah, and at that point, it took all the care and worries really off of it.
The stress was gone, and
I guess the bird's eye view is the Lord's called me to a project that is really special, near and dear, and excited and looking forward to that. And from a profession, we farm row crops, peanuts, corn, cotton, have cattle, and then we're also in the turf business. But really, really enjoy seeing these kids grow up and being a dad and
that's everything.
Watching that be helping them seek out, but also helping guide them in the right way, because I think there's so much noise in so many areas and so many places that are false.
Yeah.
And us really as parents, I feel like Aaron and I really spend a lot of time discipling our kids and meaning in that, really talking through life with them of, hey, watch out for this.
That's right.
And I'm one. I don't mind saying it. Hey, I went this path. Let me tell you. I can tell you where it's going to carry.
Sure.
But that's it, I guess, in a bird's.
No,
there's a lot in that.
No, there is. We're going to unpack some of it. I mean, I wish we had all day and several podcasts, and maybe we do another one again. Because unpacking that is so much. And by the way, those folks that are listening that are on the other side of the faith discussion, when you hear the discipling thing, I think you brought it up. It's actually just pouring into your family. It's the idea that you want to instill a certain moral value and code that is taking to what is the truth as we know it and as we understand it in our faith. And
Amen.
So no apologies for that, because everybody's got their view, right? So Georgia, though, by the way, has some heavy hitters in the farming industry. Heavy hitters in the farming industry.
Yeah.
Sonny Perdue played at UGA. I don't know that he was got his hands super dirty, but he's connected into it. He was the Secretary
of Agriculture,
of our country.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from being the governor,
Secretary of Agriculture right now.
Right. But he was. But our that's
I don't even know who it is.
Yeah. I might need to borrow a little money to get home for gas.
But he was the governor, of course, of Georgia at one point in time. But Secretary of Agriculture of our country. But then you also have on the other side of the Jimmy Carter from Plains, Georgia, a peanut farmer from Plains, Georgia, and was the governor of Georgia, and also the president of these United States of America.
Yeah.
And he gets a lot of bad credit. I'm gonna say my one spiel on Jimmy to give him a little bit of props for. Presidents before him for many years have been passing the buck on interest rates and things of that nature to make things go in the economy, but inflation was about to go, and it was going crazy, and he was the first president in decades that finally put his foot down and allowed those interest rates to go up, and it was tough on the economy. It was tough on people that had to do that during that generation, those times, but it also allowed for things to really flourish when you came back around, when you got that under control. Yeah. So sometimes somebody has to put their foot down. He did things that we don't have to agree with, but there were some things that Jimmy gets some bad play for, and he should. He should.
Mideast peace deal, though, that was pretty.
Yeah, he also handled some Mideast
actually a big deal.
He also did some negotiating hostage situations. People would really be critical of him. And
that economy, though.
Well, you could criticize everybody, and I don't have to like everything he did, but I do think today it can be very important to try to point out the things that we could agree on to. Mm-hmm. I think when I was on this cruise, we were 3 weeks in Europe. I'm blessed to be able to do that. I had all 5 of my kids, all different stages in life. So I have one in high school, one going away to college, and then one in college. So getting them all 3 together is really hard. The 5 of us is so hard to happen. In fact, we went to dinner one time, and I started telling them how much I appreciate it. And I'm hoping I'll start crying here, because I broke down in tears at this table, telling them how much it meant to me to to have that.
Amen.
I mean,
because
it is. It's like, I mean, but I was gasping. It was, the kids will tell you, because I'm realizing that they're going to be going, and my youngest is driving in like a few weeks, and she's going to be all with her friends. And so I'm literally dinner for two. I mean, I'm calling it the leftovers or something, I mean, and that is an entirely new world for me when you've had 5 like this. Yeah. And so having them at dinners and lunches and breakfasts for 3 weeks in a row was the absolute trip of my lifetime. I could have been sitting anywhere on this planet. I was with those 5 breaking bread. And I will forever be grateful for every time I sit at a table of 5 with them again. And that was, to me, just everything. And so, but when I was on this cruise, I had a chance to, I broke out with my daughter, and we did these karaoke things and stuff like that on this cruise, and we sang together, and we did that. I'm a horrible singer. She's a much better singer. I'm horrible. But you're on a cruise. Who's going to be there, right? So I got up there and did the dance.
Let it eat.
And we didn't make it to the finals. No surprise. I pulled her down.
They had a tournament?
I pulled it. It was. And so then in the main thing on this cruise, the main hall or theater or whatever it is, they did the finals, and it was like 8 people on the finals. I mean, they did karaoke like every night. 8 people in the finals, right? And I was asked to judge. And the worst thing they did when they did that, though, by the way, is they put a mic in front of me, and I said, well, how does this thing work? And they go, oh, you don't need to talk at all, but if you were, you just press that button. I was like, oh, okay.
Here we go.
So, I gave some commentary. My kids were not real happy about it. I mean, me. I mean, right? So, I mean, I was pushing that button. Yeah, pushing the button.
Don't push that button.
Crazy enough, I'm sitting there, 2 young girls there. And one of them, they've northeast and Midwest.
North Korea?
The United States of America. Gotcha. Crazy enough, in Greece, people from our country in Greece, there's only 30% Americans, but the other two judges were these 2 young girls, and she talked about how they were so distraught. Like something happened. I don't even know. I never bring up politics with somebody that's not there. But she talked about how distraught that she was over the state of our country and where things were, and not the leaders, just the divisiveness.
That's pretty bad.
And I told her, I said, you just relax. Things can be cyclical. We are Americans. We will figure this out. We are stronger and better than this. And I said, believe it or not, it's my true belief that we agree more on the things than we don't disagree. It's just sometimes our loudest voices are the worst ones. So,
that's a fact.
We've just got to get better at that. So I think it's important for us to find, like when I was talking about Jimmy, to find those. But so we've had, again, there's a little ADD there. You guys know that's how this show goes, right?
Way off the rails.
Way off the rails.
Let's bring it back.
So we have
talking about peanuts.
We have Sonny. We have Sonny. We have Sonny.
Jimmy Carter.
I want to talk about turf, man.
He sounds like Jimmy Carter.
Let's talk about some turf.
I told you, write in JB for president.
You
That's
know
the
what?
only
All
way.
of that is special, though, is that with your kids and saying that to your kids, because that's special.
Well, it's a rule in our house is we've got to be transparent. And so when you feel something, say something.
Amen.
And I, as a parent, though, have to receive it, because there's times they say stuff that I'm like, whew.
Yeah, I get that.
And I've had bad reactions. They'll tell you.
Yeah. I've had.
Yeah. And if you have too many bad reactions, they'll stop saying something.
Right.
So I want to feel it. I want to know it, and I want to say it too, and be an example of that. And man, I was feeling it that day, and I wanted them to know how much I appreciated every one of them. And they were like, they were kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't go. I was like, no. Everything you're doing and you're about to do and all you're doing, like, I can't tell you how big of a cheerleader I am. Yeah. Like, I want this. It's a new phase for me. I'll get over it. Like, I won't ever really, get over. Like, I just, like, I'm your champion. I'm behind it. I'm just telling you how much it means to me when you're in my presence.
And I know for me, when I lost my father, it changed. Life changed for me, because I saw value in things, the busyness and not having anything, and coming home and working and trying to build a company. And if you're not careful, you get sucked into what is the so-called American dream.
Right.
And we lose focus and value on what is really important. Because
for sure.
I understood in that moment of coming back, and when I got back home, he wasn't there. And this guy was my best friend. You know what I mean? And he was the most important person. I came home to help this guy, and he was my hero. And you look up and you see that. And so for me, that's what you said. It changes. And so the value of I love you
Oh.
may be the last time I say I love you.
And it's and that
it
word
means
creates so much
and
more. Yeah.
the Lord allowed for me with my father in this relationship, and as hard as it, I can look back, but the last conversation I had with him, because my mom's battling cancer and they were on their way to MD Anderson, and I called him and I said, "Have you left yet?" And he was like, "No, I hadn't left." He said, "I'm at the store." I said, "Wait a minute, I'll be there in a minute." So I take off to the store and I pull up and they were leaving, and I said, "Hey man," he goes, "Yeah," and I said, "I want to pray for you," and he goes, "All right," and I reached out and I grabbed his hand and he grabbed my hand and I prayed for him and I said, "Hey man, I love you." He said, "I love you too." I said, "Y'all be careful." This was my last conversation. You
What
know
a
I mean?
powerful conversation to have to be the last one.
As what you were saying with your kids, I mean, and the same with mine, it's every night, it's every day. Right? You don't never know, and I want them to never doubt.
That's right.
So,
Leave no
sorry
doubt.
to go there.
No, I think it's important.
I think,
and
I think
sometimes
it's special for everybody here to see that.
If you're watching this as fathers,
yeah,
I think it's important, other fathers, for you to also, because men have been trained, not all generations, not every household, not every one, but in a generalization, sometimes we're trained to hold our emotions in.
Right.
Holding the hand of your father, it's not something that people do. Praying out loud with your family members, you can become embarrassed by. Saying these emotions and being raw and vulnerable is not always what men in general can be said to do. But I'm here to tell you, fathers, that is your secret sauce. That can be your secret weapon in your family, is to share your emotions. It really can, and it's not a lack of strength. In fact, it is your strength.
Yeah.
So
it's funny on crying. I tell everybody I cried at a Walmart grand opening, right? But it's funny. It used to be that's what it was, but now I see it as it's.
There's a soundbite.
Yeah, right. I see it as it's just the glory of God flowing out of you. That's all it is, man. It's the goodness.
It's the overflow of all that you have, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, why not steer this back on into farming? But Sonny, we had Sonny Perdue, Jimmy Carter, and now Jason Womack, some of the greatest farmers in the state of Georgia.
Wow.
So, but how did you get into farming, though? You talked a little bit about it, but how did you get into it?
Just grew up, and my grandfather farmed, my mom's father farmed, my dad's father farmed, and just living on the farm, growing up on the farm, always been around it. I was that guy that always wanted to be with my dad on the farm. It's tough. It's a hard living, but it's challenging. So I always kind of enjoyed, I guess, that part. But more than anything, just enjoyed being there with him.
Yeah, how far back does it go back in the family?
Man, so I would be fourth generation.
So like
fourth generation?
On both sides.
Both sides.
Yeah.
And what part? Yeah, all Georgia?
But it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's South Georgia. We farm probably a 30-mile distance.
Would it be like Jason's sharing with me, and when I'm looking, you've got kind of like the Tifton area. If I'm naming a big city, which if you're not from Georgia, you're not going to know Tifton either. But Macon may be close.
Tift County. You'd be Tift County, Irwin County, which is just west of or just east of Tifton.
Didn't you have like a 2020 down there in Irwin County one time? Like there's a teacher or something that went
on
missing?
TV shows?
Yeah, like a 2020.
Oh yeah,
that
was kind of wild. Yeah.
Well, that wild story. You can look at
my wife actually
was a teacher. Yeah,
the teacher was like killed by a student. It came back like DNA.
My wife
crowned
her as like Miss Tifton or something.
So she was a year younger than Aaron.
It was a wild.
Crazy story down there. I remember seeing when you said that it was like Irwin County. I was like, I think that was Irwin County. Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible.
South Georgia's, that was a bad deal.
That doesn't happen all the time down there.
No, that's good.
Which is great, 100%.
But that's
nobody wants. In fact, I'd be fine if 2020 just shut down.
But and I guess a lot of I guess a lot of that area is ag related to But I kind of I don't know. I had an opportunity at one time. I went and actually took an insurance test and really kind of felt led to go in that direction. And it came down to I had an opportunity to buy a gentleman's insurance agency, and came down to the point of I had to make a decision, and was sitting there and kept praying about it, never had any clarity. And I told my wife, she said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, I go back to being a little boy and seeing Dad ride by, going on the farm, and if he wouldn't let me go with him, I'd get upset. And I said, and that's all I keep seeing.
That family,
and
that is so
that
strong.
tie to Dad is all I keep seeing. I said, so I'm going, and it's been a beautiful journey. It's tough. It's really hard. Commodities, I was telling Jason, are in a bad place. I feel like farming. I feel like they've turned farming into I mean, I feel like it's a government-controlled entity, man.
Yeah,
Really, it's a welfare system that you have to work like a dog.
Yeah,
to
get
get
out
paid.
a penny, right?
It really is, and it's sad that it's that way. And I think that changes at some point. I hope, but it's it's rewarding, to take a plow a field and plant a field.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is like what intrigues you in using your hand to toil something and see it come out where people. Then you're giving to people where I then can touch and see and feel this.
We're helping feed the country, man.
100%.
Close the country. It's pretty cool.
That is neat. Amazing. You talked about how farming is passed down generation to generation, and at least yours does. And I think in the farming community, that's probably pretty true.
Yeah, pretty accurate. Yeah.
Pretty accurate. But and you tell me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of education that goes into this, because it's not just. I mean, I'm sure for generation and hundreds of years, and even thousands of years, as people on the earth have been farming. You pass down word of mouth and learning a technique and whatnot, but. Here we're in a world now, though, that especially when you're talking about the controls and the restraints around the industry that there are now, I imagine it's like you've got to have a lot more education. It's not just the tools that you have to look into, the nutrients you're looking into, the automation that seems to be happening now. I mean, where do you get those skills? Where do you go to acquire all that stuff?
I really, hearing that, and something that comes to me in that, and I say this all the time to a lot of people. My grandfather couldn't farm right now.
Right.
But you can't forget what your grandfather taught you.
That's so good.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%.
He couldn't farm because everything's automated.
Right.
100%. These guys now, if something happens with satellites, we can shut this country down real quick.
Yeah, well, we just saw it with the airlines.
You can quit making fluid and you can shut the satellites down.
Right.
Because people don't know how to drive tractors anymore. Everything's automated and everything's push button.
Wow.
And so I see it in my father. I even saw it in my father's life. He as much as he loved coming out there and doing it with me, but he was like, man, I don't know how to operate that. And I don't want to learn how to operate it.
Yeah.
And so for us, that practice part from an automation standpoint, yes, but I still believe from the way we grow it and how we do it and how we
the end product you're looking for too, probably.
Yeah. I really I think a lot of that wisdom from those guys, and even a lot of the mentors that I look up to, and I'll go at the end of every year and I'll go to 4 or 5, and they're all older guys, and I'll sit down and I'll go, okay, here's what we did. What do I need to do different?
Yeah.
How could I how could I do a better job of stewarding what we're doing, and give me insight? And it's neat that, those guys. So I don't think a lot of that changes.
Sure.
We're trying to change a lot of it. You can't grow it in warehouses. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, there are people that try.
We think we can grow it in warehouses.
It's not working.
It don't work.
You can try to mimic some sunlight, but
you can't mimic the sun. Nor the rain.
Yeah. We tried.
I can irrigate. This is true, man. I've seen it. I can irrigate. And we had a spell for 30 days. We had no rain. And I can irrigate, and I can put 2 inches of water out through irrigation. And it's coming out of the earth. And then he can send a little rain. A half inch of rain, and the difference.
Oh, it's crazy.
Night and day difference in what it is.
Yeah. That's amazing. You're right. You can't.
And that's mind blowing to me, because we all question all these things in life when it's, I don't know.
It's all in the control.
My daughter always says it's really not that deep, Daddy. So now I'm like, it really ain't that deep. You know what I mean? People want to talk about it. I'm like, it ain't that deep.
It ain't that deep.
No.
It ain't that deep.
That's good.
So, I was fortunate. I don't like to talk about some of the access that I get from time to time. I'm very blessed. I've got to meet some great people in business and along the way. And back when we had our sanitation company, we had so many deposits. We were a pretty large group, and I don't like to toot our own horn, but we were a good sized group, and our deposits were so large that the bank loved me. I mean, they absolutely loved me, and so they would take me to play golf at these different courses. So I've had a chance to play over at East Lake Golf Course. And
it's a really nice course.
And it's amazing. They took me there a couple times. I mean, I am the quintessential person to never be on East Lake Golf Course. I went out there, so the
I should not be.
So they take you in. You get to see some history there, because you go into the locker rooms, and you see these champion names on these locker rooms, and then you get a locker kind of there, and I have no business having a locker next to Tiger Woods. But then you go out to the driving range, and a caddy will come out and watch you hit. And so, he looked at me and he said, "Well, you going to take any practice Wednesdays?" I said, "I don't want to waste nothing here." And he goes, "Well, I don't know what irons you need to leave." I was like, "You don't need you don't need. There's nothing you're going to be able to tell me." I was like, "You just wait and see, brother." I mean, when you're rolling it down the fairway. When
I brought my game face. I'm ready
it's
to go.
a golf cart. It's a walking course.
Yeah, but I mean, when I hit the ball, it's either going to go right or left or roll down the middle. You know what I mean?
I get it.
I mean,
Isn't that what they all do?
It ain't. Well, some people hit them a couple hundred yards in the air. You know what
straight
I mean?
In the air?
In the air, believe it or not. So, and I'd get the putting green, and the caddy would tell me, he goes, "Hey, listen, it's going to break like 20 yards to the left." I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because that looks straight to down the middle. These guys know the stuff. I mean, it's not 20 yards.
They work there. Yeah, no, but they probably do though.
They know it. It's an amazing place to play. I think I had 2 or 3 really good shots, and that helped me keep the clubs, not getting dust on them for a while. But it was just a fabulous time to do that. And then the few times later, years later, we have guys that manage part of our portfolio in Atlanta. One of them is on the board, I guess, or the whatever of Eastlake and the PGA Championship or whatever. And so he had these seats, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to give you guys some tickets." So he went to go get tickets, and I mean, they look better than most people's tickets the way they looked.
You're right.
And I went in and I went up to some guy and said, "Hey, he told me we have some seats or a place to go and sit around the 18th green." And I showed him. He's, "Oh, you come with me." And we went in these stands, and next thing you know, I am like on the front row in like this champagne section with like a table and 2 chairs, like staring right at the 18th green. I had never seen anything like this. It was absolutely amazing. I say all that to say, I hear you may be providing some sod up that way.
Yeah, man, it's you opened the door for a pretty cool story. I got out of the sod business after my father died. Really had to, for me, and I just took everything because we were involved in a lot of stuff, and I just laid it all on the table. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Lord, I won't pick back up in anything that you don't want me to take." Mm-hmm. And I said, I cannot move forward with all the things we've gotten involved in and we're doing when my partner is gone. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we were doing, we're in the turf business, and really felt led to shut that down. And with advisement of everyone, you're crazy, because it was a very lucrative business and we were doing really well. And it's something I moved home and started, and so really felt led to just kind of shut that down, and we went more in the direction of farming, and it was a season of rest going into for me of getting quiet and getting still, because I had told my father prior to that, he died in January of 21, and I told him in October, I said, "Dad, I feel like I feel led to go and pursue ministry of whatever that looks like. I don't know what it looks like." And I said, "It probably doesn't look anything normal, because most of the things that have happened haven't been really normal in our life. But I feel led to go in this direction." And I said, "I don't know if it's seminary. I don't know what it is. But anyway."
Oh, well, it was you.
So it was like whatever. And because we'd done things with we'd started a ministry 15, 16 years ago, Road Less Traveled. And we had done events in the community and different, food programs, manna drops, all different kind of things. And so I just really felt that tugging to pursue. And so went on down, and we shut the turf farm down. My mother and I divided out everything and went on down the road. And I got a phone call from Eastlake. Yeah. And they said, "We'd like to meet with you." And I was like, "What is this?" Yeah. So I'll go up and I sit down and I meet with the guys, and I'm talking to him, and he goes,
"Were you at the country club?"
Yeah. So I wasn't at the actual country club. I met at the agronomist office, and I was in a meeting with those guys, and I said,
you were behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I said, he said, "We're doing a renovation," and I said, "Okay," and he goes, "We've been told that you would be the one to grow our Bermuda for us," and they said, "We're going to have several varieties, and if would you get back in it?" And I said, "No, I won't." And he said, "Huh?" And he goes, "Well, let me answer." I said, "I won't get back in it in the way I was." And he said, "Would you get back in it for us?" I said, "I tell you what I'll do." I said, "I'll go home and pray about it." And I said, "The Lord told me to get out of the grass business." And I said, "And if he wants me to get back in the grass business, I'll get back in the grass business." And I said, "But it'll be by him." And I said, "And I want to just be transparent." I said, "Because of, that's the only way I know how to operate." Let's go. Sure. So I go back, and 2 weeks later they call, and they're like, "So you're not, have you come up with anything yet?" And I'm like, "Nah, not really."
Still waiting on an answer.
I said, "But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll come up," and I've done a budget. This is a wild story, man. I'd done a budget, and I used a number in the budget, and my wife was, well, that's different than what they had told you. I said, well, I don't know. I just kind of feel they had to use this, and she and I are the only ones that talked about it. So I went and looked at the stock that I would have to buy the sprigs for the grass, because the only way I would do it is I wanted to do it in the purest. I wanted to provide them the purest form of 419 Bmoney that they could get. So I got that from Georgia Seed Development, which is in Athens.
Okay.
So I went to Athens and looked at that and left there and went to East Lake, and I walked in. I sat down with the chief agronomist and with the superintendent, and we're talking and sharing, and he's like, so where you at? I said, man, just kind of working through it and wanted to come and follow up with you guys and talk. And he said, well, can you do it? I said, yeah, I can definitely do it. And I said, but I want to make sure it's what I've been called to do. I said, I've lived the majority of my life outside of my purpose, and I don't want to do that.
Wow.
And they were like, and it was funny because my middle daughter was in the car, and I give a lot of these wooden crosses out to people I get from Bethlehem. And so I had 2 of them in my pocket, because when I got out of the truck, I said, Lord, if all I'm here to do is give these men a cross, I've done what I feel like you've called me to do. And so I walk in, and I'm sitting there talking with him, and he said, well, we got to know something to care to the foundation. I said, I understand. And he goes, where would your number need to be? And I said, man, I'm not greedy. I'm just a farmer from South Georgia trying to make a difference. Right. And he goes, I understand that, but one of the guys says, but we got to have a number. And I said, well, and he stopped me. And he said, does this number work? And it was the exact number I used in the budget.
Unbelievable.
To the penny.
That's
number.
That's always how God works.
And I stuck my hand across the desk, and I said, I'll grow you grass for you. And they said,
you knew that was your answer.
That was your answer. So I shook his hand, and he said, boom, and then we shook hands. I got up. I said, guys, I want to give you this. I handed him a cross. I said, I love you. I said, I'll be in touch. I said, I'll provide you with the most top quality 419 that I feel like you've ever received. And so we went home, and we had to go to work because we planted it and we had to grow it in. So I was like, oh my gosh,
now it's time to go.
But it was cool though, man, because on the way home I got in the car and I told my daughter, and it was one of those moments she gets to see Dad not have the answer.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we don't need to always have the answer.
Good call.
You know what I mean? And so I'm riding, and she said, so Dad, you're going
brilliant.
You got out of the grass business, so now you're getting back in the grass business. So I said, yeah. And she was like, well, Daddy. And I said, I don't even know. So don't even know. You know what I mean? And in that moment I was riding, I said, Lord, I don't really understand. And it just came over me riding. It says, no, what it is you got out of what you were in control of. Now you're walking into what I'm in charge of. And I was like, but I took it even back further to, I had a passion. I moved home to grow grass, and I love growing grass. I love taking something and making it look like artificial turf. And I always had that, and I missed it so much when I got out of it. And now it's like, here's this opportunity. So
on the world stage, too.
It's crazy because I'm going Tuesday to meet with the superintendent just to do a little last drive-through because the tournament's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Are they going to be playing on your grass?
Yeah.
On the fairways and
it's
the
in the
greens?
The fairways are a zoysia.
Zoysia on the fairways.
Everything we did was
on the
rough outside of the fairway. Yeah,
that's all your grass.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How hard is it to hit out of?
Well, they grow it up, don't they?
They wanted us to grow it at an inch and a half, but I don't know the height of the cut, but it's tough, man. I went up and looked, and the way because they did a complete renovation. They added ponds, took away ponds.
Oh,
and,
wow.
It was just crazy. It was such a surreal moment of going and driving through and like stopping and looking and like, because what's cool is my dad would have been, man, he'd have been the guy at the golf club. Man, let me tell you something. We don't need to play golf club. Man, if I told you what I mean, he'd have been that guy, right?
Yeah.
But to just sit there and see and just, man, for me, those little moments and of Pops, I know you're watching this. This is cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is good. But I don't get, so many, I think, try to get caught up in all the hype and all the fame and all that. And, man, I'm just a guy from South Georgia that loves the Lord and just want to do right in those areas and ways, and really that's just kind of it.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Humble's right, man. I tell people all the time. I serve. I believe in, and I say when I serve again, people outside the faith, these kind of Christianese buzzwords. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, and I get it. And, just kind of clue you in here. Some of those words sometimes mean something on our side of things, but essentially just means that I put my faith in Jesus.
Amen.
But that Jesus character was a humble servant that rode in on a donkey.
It wasn't about him.
He rode in on a donkey. He could have come in, King, Kings, Lord, Lords, and taken names and changed changed, but he changed it through a weird way, and that's just loving on people really better than everybody else.
I was reading this morning too, and it's neat because you can't be that. You have to become that. You know what I mean?
In our heart, it's not that.
No, but that's right. I mean, that's not our desire.
My heart's pretty wretched. My heart's pretty wretched.
But and there's been times in my life when it was, I'd see, it was like, you really, man, check your heart. Look in the mirror because this isn't about you. I've given you this opportunity to go and in and through this. You're just following me in my lead, and in and through it, man. It's crazy to see how some of the things. And it was so cool. The guy laying the grass. He lays most of the grass in the southeast. And I'm meeting this guy, and he calls me and he's like, "I need to, how many times this, and when do you need to know to have the grass there?" And I said, "Let me stop you." And he goes, "All right, what's up?" I said, "Man, I'm doing this because Jesus told me to do it."
Yeah.
I said, "When you want the grass, you tell me you want the grass. I'm gonna give you the grass, and that's all we're gonna do." He's like, "Huh?" And so it's neat.
I'm going to make this so easy.
So this guy, he and I have become best friends.
He's like, wait, you're a different kind of person.
He's like, wait a minute, man, you're about what I'm about. And then so now, and it's just neat to see how things happen and come full circle.
Cool.
So cool, man.
That is so cool. Gosh, what I was going to ask you is that you used some word that I'm not going to be able to say. So you said you went to Eastlake and you met with some people, and it had this really scientific name of people that you met with.
Agronomy.
Chief agronomist.
Agronomist. Yeah. Can you explain to our audience? Because I'm hearing agronomist, and I'm thinking like economist. I'm like bug guy.
Well, I mean, these guys, man,
what are we talking about?
There's so much science behind. Mm-hmm. You don't realize, but you think of the turf and you think of, if you can't fathom the science and all behind what these guys do and how they do it and how they fertilize it and when they water it and why they do it a certain way and why they spray this at a certain time. And it was neat that I took some pictures of the greens and I see all these tubes and it looks like PEX line coming out of the greens.
Yeah,
and I was
okay.
like, what's going on that way?
Yeah.
And it's this new system, and the Masters has done it, that they can control the temperature of the soil 24/7.
Wow.
So therefore, the grass can never go dormant as long as it has a cover over it.
That's right.
It won't freeze, and they can.
Wow.
I mean, they can set the temperature with an app on their phone, and they can set the temperature of the soil at 74 degrees, and it stays 74 degrees. And
you're not
like,
losing greens.
Wow.
You're not. Wow.
But it's so wild to see all the things behind the scenes, and a lot of those things intrigue me, but I also. Not that New Age things aren't good.
Yeah. Sure.
But there's a fine line, too, as to where do I come to the point of stewarding well and still maintaining and getting the same product, right?
We can out-engineer some things.
Oh, man.
I mean, you can out-engineer some things.
Wait a minute, man. Just drive up and park, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the coffee mugs, we've gotten in some weird stuff with coffee mugs.
Change colors and whatnot.
Yeah, all this stuff. You can out-engineer some things, for sure. Yeah. I know I've got some good engineer friends, and I think most of my engineer friends probably agree. Like, you can get out. You can over-engineer things.
But the thing I've learned in seeing and talking with those guys, because it's neat, we go back and forth, and they're all up to speed because everybody is coming to those guys with the new and latest fertilizers and all that. So we have conversation back and forth, and it was neat because he called and he was like, "So, hey, what are you thinking about for your pre-emergence going into the winter?" And I was like, he's like, "I want you to spray this, 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 and this." He's like, "What's your thoughts?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we can do that." He's like, "That doesn't sound like that's what you want to do." And I said, "Well, I would probably, if you're asking me what I would do, I would go about it and I'd spray this, and I'd come back and do that." He goes, "Let's go with your plan." I was like, "All right, man, cool." So it's neat, it's neat to go back and forth. And a plant is no different than a human in its little increments.
It's a living, growing thing.
That's right. You go sit down and you're not going to you're going to go eat a 26-ounce ribeye.
Yeah.
You're going to be just
a little sluggish.
Can you throw me out in the bay?
Little sluggish.
But if I go and I eat a little bit, and I eat a little bit, and I eat a little bit, and a plant's the same way, man. If you spoon feed a plant, it's always, it has the nourishment it needs versus bam and then back. It's just continual.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I look at
I have tried to spoon feed all of my plants over time. The problem is I just forget where the spoon.
The AstroTurf's doing good though.
The AstroTurf's green, baby. It's green. I should give me some of that A19 or whatever it is.
Yeah, we'll send you a little bit in the mailbox. You might just be out of town when they get it. What's this?
That probably wouldn't do great down here, though, right? The sand soil down here. Mm-hmm. I mean, would that even do okay in Florida?
Yeah, sand soil is good.
Is it okay? Hey, you know better than I do. What the hell do I know? You know, I mean, for sure. Moving, we're going to move this past it because that is a fabulous story. But I knew that was so much bigger than what I thought it was.
You know, they opened
Juice over here and is like, I think he does sod for a golf course.
Yeah,
somewhere.
he does. I looked it up, but I think it's Eastlake. Yeah, Eastlake opened on July 4th. 1908, dude.
1908.
I didn't realize it was that old.
Freedom. Oh, yeah, it's old.
But I was like, Americana opened July 4th.
But wasn't it a public course, though? Mm-hmm. I think it opened up as a public course in downtown Atlanta.
They purchased it in 1904, but I didn't see that.
It's a neat place. A lot of history.
Unbelievable. It's really an unbelievable place. It's an unbelievable
I'm excited to go up Tuesday because it's kind of the course is finished. All contractors are out, and just to be able to spend time with.
Well, tell them I said hey when you get up there. They'll remember that. They'll remember that.
JB,
don't let that
JB. They'll remember JB.
So we're going to ask you to leave.
That's funny. That's funny.
So I want to move on to Holyland Farms. Seems to be really a passion project. And it's one you started out with your father. I saw a video. It was amazing. Tell us maybe a bit more about what you have going on there. We've touched on it as a little bit in the beginning, kind of as a show sponsor. But I know this is something that really speaks to your heart. And I think that's just amazing, some of the things you're doing there. Maybe you can talk about the vision, and because I know it's not open yet, and you're still in the process of developing Holyland Farms. And before you get into that again, we've got people that watch this that are going to be completely outside of faith, and you've got people that are really big in the faith. What I want to tell you is that there's some people in the faith. You know, if you watch the show at all, you know I'm harder on the people in the faith than I am on the people out of the faith, right? And so I just want you to know, in fact, my mother and my wife and some other people have all told me, so you kind of apologize for talking about faith a little bit, but I want you to understand I'm not really apologizing for my faith. I want to be open to the conversation and let you to understand when we talk about things of faith, you can listen, not listen, fast forward. I just want you to know that, but I don't want to apologize for who I have grown to love over time, which is my faith. And I wouldn't want you to apologize. I've said it before. If I lived in your shoes and if I had all your experiences and the church did what they did or this Christian did what they did or your parents or whatever it is, if I had the exact same experiences in life that you've had, I would feel the exact same way you do. All I'm telling you is it could be open to something different. And so we're going to go. I'm sure we're going to dive into here a little bit more in Holy Lands. You've heard a little bit of faith already. This is probably one of the biggest faith shows we've done. We're not necessarily a faith show, but I am a person of faith, and it just is who I am. So,
Amen.
With that being said, Holyland Farms seems to be a passion project. I want to hear more about it.
Man, so we got all afternoon, right?
Like 7 minutes.
You know, man,
give me that New York Southern minute.
Wow. So,
It's beautiful countryside.
We went on a men's retreat 16, 17 years ago. Really flipped my. You know, I grew up in church all around. You see this, you see that. The ones in there telling you about this, or the ones outside telling you need to do this and that. So it was like whatever. And nothing, not to take a lot of that, but it was just real mixed and some confusion.
Oh, we're a mixed bag in the church,
you know what
baby.
I mean?
We're a mixed bag in the church.
Lived a life and ran hard and got back, started a business, yada, yada, and went on a men's retreat. And I said, Lord, if you're real and you talk to people were like, Lord told me this. I was like, I don't know, he's ever told me that. I was like, but Lord, if you're real and that's how it works, I want to know you in that way. I was like, so these next 3 days, I'm going to this men's retreat. Have you way with me. I always tell people, be careful what you pray for.
Yeah.
And flipped my life upside down. And so we moved back, and 6 months later, my prayer was, Lord, I've never encountered anything like this. Whatever you would have me to go and do, you show me, and I'll go do it.
Yeah.
And we were with some guys and just came over and we go have a free concert at the football stadium. And I was like, yeah. And I told them, and they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, man, we have a free concert. Christian concerts, football team, invite everybody in the community. They were like, you crazy. So I sat down with my dad. It's kind of funny, going back many years to bring up the Holy Land because there's some backstory there. And I told my dad, and he was like, son, he gives you some sense too. And I was like, yeah. And so anyway, we had our concert, and for for 14 or 15 years, the Lord's allowed us to do in a little small town of Tifton, 40,000 people, to be able to share the gospel in front of like 50,000 people through musical worship. From Jeremy Camp to Kerry Jobe, Michael W. Smith, all right there in this little town, and every one of them, were always free, and it was never anything other than just about the gospel.
You ever pull them folks down from McDonough, Georgia, the Casting Crowns folks?
Never had Casting Crowns.
I was going to say they're Atlanta-based folks.
We talk back and forth, So
shout out Ryan Garrett. See if you can't make that work.
That's cool. But I think in and through that, my prayer for my life is never wavered from that of, Lord, I just want to be in line with what you're calling me to do. That's all. Yeah. At the end of the day, when it's my time and I meet Christ, all I desire is Him to say, "Good job." And Scripture says that, good job, my good and faithful servant. Just to look and just say, man, you did it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, I was in a Bible study with some guys, and a guy was like, we're going to sell a farm. Would you be interested? I was like, nah, man, we just bought a farm. And not interested. And went on 2 or 3 weeks, and I was talking to my dad. He said, well, go look at it. And I said, okay, I'll go look at it. So I went and we looked, and I rode through. And in anything I do now, in any of it, whether it be business or whatever, I'm always asking. And it's no different than coming in here and, Lord, what is it that you would have me say? Yeah. Take my conversation and let it be about you.
Sure.
And so I was driving in this farm with this guy, and we're riding through this farm. And when I pulled in the gate, I was like, Lord, why am I here? I was like, this don't feel like I'm coming to look at a cow farm. What's going on? And so we drive in, and we're riding, and he's looking, and it's a working cattle farm, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm sitting there like, oh, my God, this is nuts. What am I doing? And we drive all the way back, and I'm looking, such a beautiful piece of property. We get to the back, and he turns around, and the Lord just hit me, and He said, there it is, go do it. And I was like, oh, my God. And it hit me 10 years prior to that. We were out on the turf farm, and the kids were playing. And I said, Lord, why couldn't we have a place like this that was just this beautiful hillside with this huge lake behind it, and we could have this amphitheater and just thousands of people, Lord, 30, 40, 50,000 people could come. I was like, Lord, it could be like Woodstock, but it could be Godstock. And I said, and you could come and you could authentically, Lord, just move and touch your people in the way you do that would I said, Lord, it transform a nation. I said, that's what we're missing. We put all these different things on religion and tradition and Christianity when you just say surrender and have a relationship. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and your might, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's just that easy. Right. So, and I was sitting there, and so that was a prayer 10 years ago. My kids were running around, and I was like, because, one time I thought I was a hippie. So Woodstock was kind of like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I looked and
Different kind of grass, Jason.
Yeah, right.
What kind of grass?
It's all about just being transparent, right? And so
for sure. No.
I was like, but it could be, instead of Woodstock, it could be Godstock. And so when he turned the truck around and he turned and looked, I saw it, and that's what it was. Because, man, I ain't thought about that prayer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just talking to God, because I talk to him all the time.
He puts it on your heart.
I just talk to him all the time anyway. Yeah. You see what I mean? And when I turned around, and it was like, there it is, go do it. And I said, oh, man. And, man, I got real emotional, and the guy's looking at me and said, man, you all right? You all right? I was like, man, I'm good. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good. And I knew in that moment, I was like, oh, my Lord, man, this is. And it really hit me and came over, man, that those concerts and those other times was really like a training ground for something coming, if that makes sense, to like, almost like, hey,
of course it was.
You're learning, you're doing, and I'm calling you to a new thing, Jason. And then so I go back, and it was funny. I get my dad, and I was like, we need to go ride and look. He was like, all right, let's go look. What you thinking? I was like, well, we could, run cows, and I said, Dad, I'm just gonna be honest with you. We're not looking at a cow farm. He's like, what is it? I said, we're called to build a retreat center. And I said, we're called to build a place that there'll be men's retreats, women's retreats, couples retreats, youth retreats, kids retreats, amphitheater that'll seat thousands of people, a place that people can come and rest, a place that people can come and get away, a place that a husband and wife can come and stay for however long. They can go walk the trails. They can go sit. They can talk. They can fellowship. I said, because until we get quiet and until we get still in the Lord, you can't hear from the Lord.
Yeah.
I said, but when you're running, and so we talked, and, you know, I know he thought I was crazier.
Brilliant.
Not as crazy probably as after this, you know, but when we did Road Less Traveled. And he said, well, you know, we'll talk more about it. So we rode and talked several times, and this was in October of 2020. And we rode.
Out of dark days in COVID.
Yeah, right there at the end, right?
Yeah, right there at the end, yes.
So we were riding through and looking, and
right before the election.
My dad was kind of tough. He played ball for Bear Bryant, and growing up with us boys, he was always just kind of his motto in life was, when it gets to where everybody else can't stand it, it needs to be just getting right for you. That's how he raised us, and it was all the time. That's who he was, and we were sitting out there with some mentors.
Say that again. Say that again.
When it gets to where everybody else can't stand it, it needs to be just getting right for you. And actually, when he died, and I had a grill redone because he was big into cooking, I put that on the grill and put Roger Womack underneath it.
That's awesome.
So we were sitting there with some mentors, and because buying the property was one thing, and expanding the cattle business was one thing, but going and building a Christian retreat center and a place for people to all over the country to be able to come to and rest in the Lord and name it Holyland Farms. Wait a minute. And so we're sitting there, and a spiritual mentor of mine was I had him be there, and the accountant and banker was there, and those guys were talking, and the guy, good friend of mine, spiritual mentor, he said, I want to ask a question. He said, Mr. Roger, when you look at this land, what do you see? And I was like, oh. And I look at my dad, and he's standing there, and he turns around. He's got tears running down his face, and he said, I want to take and put the biggest cross anybody's seen on this property. He said, because it's only because of him that my son and I can do this. And I was like, man, wow. I mean, number one, I've never, seen this on my dad. And they turned and looked at me, and he said, so when you look at this, what do you see? I said, y'all, this is Holyland Farms. That's all I can tell you. I said, I don't understand it. I can't make sense of all of it. But I'm telling you, the Lord's calling us to do a work, and he's going to do a work here that is going to be special. And so my dad and I left there, and we went and met, and we were having lunch at Longhorn. And I said, Dad, from a business standpoint, here it is. From a tax standpoint, here it is. I said, from a spiritual standpoint, I feel like this is what the Lord's called us to do with everything inside of me. And I said, from a supernatural standpoint, if the Lord orders it, he'll pay for it. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't know how it happens. I said, we can't do it. I said, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where it comes from. I said, but I feel like the Lord's going to bring his people together in a way like nothing anybody's ever seen. I said, because I feel like he's getting ready I feel like he's getting ready for there to be a revival like nothing this country's seen, because that's the only thing that gets this country back straight. We can all do all these things and all this, but until, I guess, being of faith, until we understand that part, it changes the inner part.
Well, right? Jesus, a relationship. I've always said a relationship with Jesus makes you better at all your relationships.
Yeah. Fixes everything.
And coming back from Rome, one of the most interesting things. I mean, we a week in Greece, and then we were in Florence for almost a week, and then Rome. We did a week in Rome, and it was just amazing. Again, I've told you a little bit about the trip. It was an amazing trip. We had a piazza that we rented in Rome. That it was 3-4 bedroom piazza. A kitchen, living room, all this stuff, but it was on the rooftop, Nice. And it was actually Valentino, the designer's piazza when he stayed in Rome. So I'm blessed to have this opportunity to stay in a place like this, and had a terrace out on the back top, and then a second terrace that had like a hot tub up top. It was sick. Yeah, it was amazing. Awesome. It was amazing. The coolest thing there is, as you look out the roof of Rome, is crosses on almost the top of every building. Now, I'm not saying that I think faith goes through sometimes these cyclical cycles, where you have leaders that have mixed language, and it causes our faith not to grow the way it wants to. Again, the loudest voices, even in our faith, can be our worst voices. And I pray a lot of times that, there's voices in our faith that get silenced, and then people like you that get projected. Because, the Westboro Baptist Church, let's shut them down. The folks yelling at people on the sidewalks in Las Vegas, let's stop doing that stuff. I pray not that I love everybody. Sure. Again, if I lived their life and had their experiences, maybe I'd be doing the same thing. And I have a lot of understanding. I try to lean into that understanding and that acceptance. I don't have to be in agreement with it. And so sometimes I'm like, man, we need to, I'd prefer the news not to mention Westboro Baptist Church. I prefer, not to have those things.
Don't shed the light on it, yeah.
Let's lessen those voices. But in Rome, on the top of everything is a cross. The cross, though, was the most insane and grotesque and inhumane way to kill somebody you could come up with. I mean, the Romans knew how to kill people.
Yeah.
And slowly. And they used to place crosses outside of cities, and they would say, you do something wrong, we're going to hang you on the cross, sort of thing. And that was a representation of, you come in here and you lie, cheat, and steal, this is where you're going to go. And we took something, and I say Jesus took something that was meant to kill and destroy and made it a symbol of freedom and hope. Now,
to save the world.
It's our job to be stewards with that message and have it still remain freedom and hope, because there's some people who look at the cross and see something different. But we can make it, that is to me, though, what the cross means. I mean, the first century Christians, we were on this tour, and I've always, listen, I know this stuff, but it's cool to hear an Italian say it. And we were going through the catacombs, and she was telling them how the first century Christians, these catacombs are where they had buried Christians down below because you couldn't bury them up. They'd be murdered, and martyred in early Christians. And these honestly, these faithful people for us, the reason why we have our faith is that they went to their grave, though loving people, and they went to their grave singing the praises of Jesus and ready to see his face. And that fearlessness and that love, not in protest, not in all these crazy things, it changed an empire that ruled the world.
No, it did.
Well, but you even think about now in our time in 2024, what is, because even with this project with Holyland, you come to the, people had a guy tell me the other day, he's like, man, I bet you can't wait to stand on the stage and you see all these people stand out there. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
I said, really, if the Lord allows me to see this, what I really would like to do is be back on that pond dam with my wife and my kids, because this has been a cost. There's been a cost because Daddy's always on the phone, or he's always in a meeting, or he's always working, he's always doing it. But to back it up to just that conversation with my father, and we had to make a decision to move forward because we're fixing to put this out. We're fixing to buy this farm, but we're buying this farm for this reason. And I asked my dad, I said, I said, Daddy, I'm good with this, but you got to tell me he told you to do it.
Yeah.
And he said, I can handle that. And next morning he sends me a message. He says, in my Father's house there's many mansions. You go buy that for him in Jesus' name. And I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And I called him. I said, Dad, what's going on? And he goes, Son, I've never had anything happen like what happened. He said, I got home and I was sitting under the carport and I was looking out, smoking a cigarette. It was funny because I said, God speaks to people who smoke cigarettes, right?
Yeah. Well, of course he does.
Yeah, right.
You wouldn't believe some people don't think that.
Yeah. But it was funny. I always say that and people kind of get a humor out of it. But anyway,
that is great. No,
he was sitting there and he was looking. He said, I was looking out and I said, Lord, if you want me and Jason to do this, you got to let me know. And he said, he said his face appeared. And I said, and he just sat there and he got silent and I got silent. And I was like, and he said, son, everywhere I turn, I said, Daddy, that's what happened to me 15 years ago. And he said, son, let me finish. He said, everywhere I turned, all I could see was the face of Christ. And he said, I was sitting in the office this morning praying for your mother with her cancer stuff and praying for you boys and the grandchildren. And I said, Lord, I got to know if this is what you want us to do. And he said, son, he audibly told me this is what I've already told you what to do. You go do what I called you to do. He said, that's when I sent you the message. And so we purchased the property, and 2.5 months later, he falls dead of a massive heart attack.
Wow.
Playing golf. And
wow.
Man, for our whole family, and for, you take the whole family dynamics as one whole thing in business, but then you take this and your partner that, because majority of the people are fixing to think you crazy. Majority of the people are like, what are you talking about? You're trying to start a church, or you're doing this, or what are you doing? And you can say it and say it and say it and say it, but it's almost sounds Greek, I think, to a lot. Like, you're going to build a place that people can come rest in the Lord and sit with the Lord and hear from the Lord. Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, that's not.
And there's an amphitheater that, like, you're saying 50,000 people. There's a hillside that could seat 50,000 people. Yeah, but there's 300 acres, so 100,000. It might be like Woodstock and shut all the roads down, and God just be elevated and revival break out.
Right.
They're like, oh my God, this guy's young. Watch out.
Yeah.
I told you all about him in college, right?
We've been littered with crazy. We've been littered with crazy.
Right. You think about it, and so for me, Mom gets real sick and everything, and she wanted to put the property up for sale, and it kind of was like the Abraham Isaac moment. I went in a meeting and I laid it down and I said, here it is. And I said, if y'all want it, I understand. And I said, but if he calls me to pick it up, I said, there'll be no discussions.
Yeah.
And we had to fly her out of Tifton on a private plane to Houston. She was really, really sick. And it's amazing how things just come all at once. And I went out to this spot. I wouldn't go back to the farm because every time I went, I could see it. And I was sitting back at that spot. I said, Lord, I don't understand. Mm-hmm. I said, I see the road. I see the amphitheater. I see where you want to. I see it all, Lord. And I said, Lord, the devil isn't showing me this. And I said, I don't. I said, but my dad's gone.
Yeah.
And I said, my mom's sick. I said, the property's for sale. I don't understand. And just as us guys sitting here, it just came over in that moment. You quit worrying about your father's sitting with me.
Yeah.
And he's going to watch me show you what to do. Now you go do what I've called you to do. And, man, in that moment, I was like, oh, my God. So I picked up the phone. I called a friend of mine. He's a real estate agent. And I said, hey, buddy. And he goes, yeah, what's up? I said, I got a problem. He goes, all right. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, but I can't sell this farm. And he said, man. And I said, I get it. I said, I know you got money tied up and everything. And I said, but just send me a bill. But I got to go do what God's called me to do. He said, you're not going to believe this. I said, yeah, I am. Come on. And he said, I've been trying to call you for 2 weeks. And he said, you can call my wife and she'll tell you. And he said, but we've done so much business together that I didn't want you to think that I wouldn't be a good representation of you to come and tell you that I was not going to sell that farm. He said, because when we went out there and shot the drone footage, he said, man, I had something happen in my life. And he said, I can't set up for him. He said, people call me and I won't go carry them to show it. And he said, all I can tell you is roll on, brother, and I'm here to help you. And I was like, it's funny for me. I've seen in my life that when the Lord calls you to step or move in a direction, he will confirm that direction. Sure. And so at that point, that would have been that was March of 21. We started putting together Holyland Farms, and I went up and met with an older guy I got introduced to in Dallas, Georgia, and was walking around. Really didn't even. I'd helped him on a golf course, at the end of when we got out with an orphanage, and we were talking, and he said, can you come back next week? I was like, yeah, I'll come back. So I came back the next week, and we were walking around talking, and just such an amazing man of faith, 85-year-old guy. And he was just pouring into me and was meeting and talking on a lot of different things. And he said, hey, I said, gee, he said, is your 501c3 set up? And I said, no. And I said, we're in the process of it. And he goes, all right, good. My secretary's going to call you in the morning. She's sending you a $50,000 check. He said, the Lord told me to give that to you because you can't bear any fruit until you plant seeds, and here's your seed stock. Go get started. And I was like, what? Nice, he was like, here. And I was like, wow. Nice. And so it's cool because a good friend of mine in construction, I called him and I was like, because he had come to my father's funeral and I'd carried him out and showed him. And he said, I want to help you. And I called him and I said, hey, man, we're fixing to get started and, we're ready to go. And he said, all right, what do you need? And I said, we're going to have excavators, bulldozers, a little bit of all of it. And he said, all right, cool. There'll be an excavator and a bulldozer there Monday morning. And I was like, well, wait a minute now.
I'm
we
not
got
quite
to talk
ready.
Finances and all that. And he goes, there's no, I didn't mention finances. He said, if I didn't mention it, you don't need to mention it. He said, I told you I'm coming to help. And I was like, wow. And so Monday morning, this equipment's sitting there, and I was like, all right, Lord, well, I don't even have anybody to run it. You know what I mean? And this whole thing's been, that's what it's been. And 2 weeks later, this guy shows up, and he's like, hey, I heard you looking for help. I've built roads and ponds all my life for 40 years, and I can come and start, and I can start Monday. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, well, you know anybody else? He was like, well, yeah, I got another guy that, and I was like, oh, my gosh. So, you look up and
it's just all snowball.
It was all orchestrated, but in that, and all those, that's great. But what I've learned in faith is that the Lord's desire his only desire is that he be seen in you and nothing else be seen.
For sure.
Because that's it. But in that, he has to get rid of you. And there's pruning, and there's, you find yourself, you're going and doing, and then, it comes to this point that you look up and like, man, there isn't any money in the checking account. Mm-hmm. And there's 9 people out here that are believing and trusting what you said. Mm-hmm. And you're like, how will you keep moving forward? Yeah. And you keep moving forward, and you keep digging, and you keep, and I think it's all the part of humility. I think it's of that humble walk, sure, that all that's seen is him, because that's the only one it's about. Well,
for sure, in our faith, I totally agree. Like, putting him in the forefront of your life and allowing that to be led. There's the fruits of the Spirit, and I've said this before: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, mercy, and self-control. I probably missed one there. I usually rolls off my tongue. No. Must be this peach time thing. But, it's the fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of me is really wretched. So putting him forward is always good. I've got a good friend of mine, shout out to Brooks, Pastor Brooks. He always, his tagline is love Jesus and be nice to people. Amen. I mean, you said it's really simple, right? You say your daughter says it's not that deep.
Yeah, Daddy, it ain't that deep.
It's not that deep. We love Jesus, be nice to people. And so,
well, if you love Jesus, he works all the rest of that out.
The byproduct of loving Jesus is having better relationships in the world.
Well, it's like you were saying, all these things that we see, that all this attention is going, shouting at people, this or that or the other. Yeah. Peter, I mean, he walked the streets, and people were healed, and he was never saying a word.
No.
The shadow.
This guy,
shadow.
This guy was sans protest, other than flipping tables on the religious and self-righteous.
So
folks,
if the shadow of Christ,
living
in you is of that,
they touch his wings and they were.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So so when he says speak, you speak, and I've learned in that of it's so much easier and simpler when he's the one in charge and he's the one that's got it, and we're just abiding in that place.
Yep. No, we just messed. I always point to first century Christians just because they were the closest to knowing who Jesus was, right? Mm-hmm. And so then after that, I think it's all gotten muddled. So it gets really crazy. And it is tough, and we do live in a complex world, and we are human beings with complex feelings, and it's very easy. And by the way, I know you feel this way, Jason. I mean, look, when I'm hearing Jason say things and we're saying things, I want you to understand that, like, I, as a person of faith, I also understand that it's not fully feasible for me to be full-time faithful. And that's not saying that I don't love Jesus so much. I try so hard. And so when you're looking at us, though, I'm the worst example of Jesus. I just try every day to get better, because I'm human, and that's my downfall. On this side of heaven, nothing will be right. On the other side of heaven, we'll get it. It's all gravy, And so we just got to get there. And in the meantime, and you pointed to it, the greatest commandment, right, is simple: love Jesus, be nice to people. That's it, right? Amen. And some people you just try and be nice to because you can't do nothing else, right? So it's tough. But if we were to come together collectively as Christians, I think you're right. It changed the empire one time; it would change the world again.
And I really think, I don't know, for me and just seeing and this little world that I live in, and it would have been, if you said, what would it, if you took the land and flipped the land and developed the land and sold the land, you'd be like, hey,
I made a profit.
Boy, made a profit. You go it on.
Yeah.
Go build a retreat center.
Yeah. Right.
But it's been really cool. It's been really cool here in this process. I'll give you an example. So much of this for me, and I said slow down, because I get and I see it, and I see the end result. I see what the end result looks like, and it's drawn out. It's drawn out on civil drawings, and it's, you present it, and you meet about it, and you talk about it, and you share it, and all that, and you're trying to get there as quick as possible, and you're like, but wait a minute. You moving ahead of me will steal the blessing that I've got for someone else that you don't know anything about, Jason. And, an example of that, drain tile, there's a lot of drain tile that's going in on the property. Where the amphitheater is, there's a big, huge hillside that goes down to the amphitheater with a 40-acre lake behind it, and there's a 60-foot cross that's going up it's actually 64 feet. It's a cool story I'll give you behind that, and it'll be lit at night. And so there's a lot of drain tile that's got to go, and I've reached out to 2 or 3 different people about the drain tile. Yeah. And nothing's come together. And, obviously the finances in this, I mean, if I had a foundation and I could just draw from or whatever it was, but it's not, it's not that. I mean, you've got so many people from $100 a month that have given to.
Yep.
It was cool that the first thing I got in the mail, and it was written. It looked like a kid's drawing. It was two $1 bills. And so for me, I'm always like, this is going. This will take care of the amphitheater. And I opened it up and I pulled out two $1 bills, and I was like, wow.
Somebody gave that.
I said, I get it, Lord.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean by this.
Sure.
And I was like, so. But back to the drain tile, I get a phone call from one of the largest farmers in our area, and he had called a friend, and that friend called, and he goes, hey, I was talking to such and such, and I always try to keep that private, but he's like, I was talking to such and such, and he said, hey, what about Holyland? And he was like, yeah, man, they're really wide open, building the roads and ponds and all the building pads, and they've already started the chapel and working on the design of retreat center and all this. And he goes, they need any drain tile? And he goes, I don't know. I'll call you right back. So he calls me. He's like, hey, man, you need drain tile? And I was like, wow. And so he said, I'll meet you next Wednesday. So I met him next Wednesday, and he's coming in on Tuesday, and he's doing drain tile throughout everywhere that's needed. And he was like, you just tell me where it needs to be done. And I got it taken care of. And I was like, and so for me, what I've seen in this is, it was funny because I asked a business guy that I'm real close with, and he said, so how much is this going to cost? And I said, I don't really know. He goes, yeah, you do. I mean, you number guy. What's it going to cost? And I said, I think it's going to be free. And he goes, huh? I said, yeah. I said, I believe the people of the Lord are going to come together and give what part God's called them to do, and it's going to be free. And he was like, come on, man. I said, I'm just telling you. You asked me, so I'm telling you. I said, he calls me to have faith. And I said, I've never done a project like this, and we're moving into it. So I got the faith that he's going to bring it to par and let that happen. And here we go. And that's what's been so cool. I'm sitting here with you guys. Come on, man. How you two met.
It's
crazy.
Hilarious.
All right?
And
so how you two guys met, and then here I am and Destin.
I was urinating in the ocean when Brandon swims up.
What? But right. I mean, and I'm sitting here. It's your place. What a blessing. It's crazy, man.
It's hard to understand when you're outside of the faith you have in the orchestration, because it is in it, and it can feel, and it does seem, and it maybe is kind of this oxymoron. How can two things be true but yet different? In the sense that God does know the beginning and the end, right? But then he has free will, and we have a choice.
That's right.
The two can't be the same, and they're different, but yet they are.
Right.
And there's a bit of faith in that. And understanding. The one thing I know is I just don't understand why things happen like all of these events line up. But when I get to the other side, I'll be fully known.
That's right.
And I'll fully know.
That's right.
And so that's the part that the mystery of it will be like, well, now I see the plan. I didn't know the plan.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the plan. I fought against it the whole way. I did all kinds of stuff.
I had my own plan.
I should have gone left when I bob and weave went right. And so we do all of those things and make mistakes and get into trouble. And listen, if you're listening to this and you're not a person of faith, you probably gotten in trouble all the time, and you're thinking like, what can I do to correct it? I mean, I'll just tell you that if you're not ready to lean into faith, to find people that are faithful that you maybe can counsel with, and maybe even just somebody that I know I know I'm about to say something, you're gonna be like, there's no way I'd ever pray, and I know I've got friends that say that to me, that I'm not praying, I'm not a praying person. I'd say, just give it a try. And you say, well, I don't even believe. Just start there. Just start there. You wouldn't see what
I tell a lot of people, just ask him.
Yeah,
just take some time and just say, hey, Lord, if you're real, I want to know you.
Man, when I did that church in Atlanta, people used to always tell me, like, what do I do? I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this. Like, but and the people would come, because sometimes, look, I'm a business person. I understand things. You get problems, but people come and they talk to you even when they weren't people of faith. And I'm accepting you can come to me in any walk of life, at any position, and I am zero judgment. Now, I'm not going to tell you necessarily that certain things you're doing are right when you ask me about what you could get right, but that's a deeper conversation. We have a relationship, we talk, we sit down. I'm not going to, publicly, I'm not that way. I'll never criticize you, because I want to hear your story. Amen. I want to get to know you first before we go into that, right? Because before we go into that. But on a one-on-one, we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. But the number one thing I tell people, especially if they're not somebody that's leaning into their faith, is just start praying.
Well, and I think,
and
man,
they don't get.
thing to do.
Well, they're like, but I don't even believe in this. I was like, just do it. And I'm
so
usually
hard.
like, if you just do it for 30 days, just see what happens.
Try it.
Just see what happens. Just see what happens. You
For
just
10
don't
seconds.
realize it. And so there's so many crazy things that happen. I've seen. What's funny is I had a conversation with somebody on the boat that DM'd me from the podcast, and got really deep into faith and why they walked away from faith. Totally got it.
no doubt.
Totally got it.
No doubt, man.
And I told him I get it. And I didn't tell him, I just told him why I still rely on the faith and the things and the historicity of the faith, because we went deep into like why he was trying to prove things that weren't, and I said, listen, I get it. There's lots of things that are unexplainable or different things. I mean, there's theologians that would look at Jonah in the whale and say that it's a total folk tale. And there are many theologians in our faith. And then there's some theologians that to me doesn't matter because it's not about the cross, And so I get it. Everything for me, that's the one thing that I can't get around.
Well,
so
all
we went
for me,
deep into that,
I just
and
all I can hear is
amazing
my
having those
story.
conversations.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just your story.
Yeah.
What happened? You know
Right.
what I mean? And what transformed, and I knew
It's
in
your
that
testimony.
moment, the
It's your
Lord
testimony.
didn't, he didn't say how many Bible verses can you, what about the guy that's next to him on the cross?
Yeah.
He believed.
He didn't know
That
one
dude
Bible
didn't
verse.
tithe. He didn't know a Bible
One
verse.
time.
You know what I mean?
One time.
And in that moment, for me, sitting there on this, in a life of where I've been, and all of a sudden, I reached down and I felt in love, encountered a love like I'd never encountered in my life. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? I don't need to understand and figure all this out. All I can
agree.
know is I just encountered a love that now I've started to understand that died for me so that I could have freedom and rest and fellowship in what they had.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wow.
It's
You know what I mean?
it's always
That's real.
The biggest heartache is, and we've talked about this, the biggest heartache of just seeing people get turned away from faith is that they're not getting that chance that you're isolating yourself from the greatest love you'll really ever know. And I know that's crazy. I sit down with a guy one time in Atlanta, and we just talk. I gave him the prayer thing, all this stuff, and he said, "What's crazy about you is that you talk about Jesus like he's still here,
Amen.
like he's a real person." And I was like, "Well, yeah."
He is.
And it was honestly one of the greatest compliments. But I got what he's saying. To him, it was just so radical and so weird. But I get that, and I appreciate that, and I want to lean into that. And I told him that, and I said, "You have every reason. I get it. It's nuts." But what was funny is I don't know where he is in his faith story now because we've lost contact. But before I left, he moved from being completely atheist to being agnostic, and I always thought that was somewhat of a win. Like the needle moved.
I
The
believe
needle
there's
moved.
something.
He's now there could be a creator out there. I just don't know that I'm willing to name it.
Oh, there's definitely
right
a
now.
creator out there.
Well, Paul said it when he first got into Greece, in Romans, they worshipped every god under the sun.
Yeah.
They even had a statue, and they talked about in Romans that was called the unknown God. They wanted to make sure if
Just
they
in
missed
case.
one of them, there was an
Just
unknown
in
God.
case.
And he stood up there and he says, "I'm going to tell you about this guy you hadn't named."
That's a good story.
I think
that's a good story.
I saw a
amazing.
podcast the other day of Corey Asbury that was really cool, and he was in a prison, and he was sharing, and he said, and he was talking about David, and he said, and he told the story of David and what he did and all this, and he was like, that guy's in the Bible, and he was like, we put, and I was reading a book, and
He's
if
a
you
wretched.
take all the-
He had a lot of problems too,
Bro,
there, brother.
You think? You look at somebody gave me a book, and I was reading the book, and it was breaking down each of the disciples, and it was telling about them, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
and at the end it said, to be honest, in just one sentence, they were just a rather ragged group of people, and I was like, I fit into those people.
Cutthroats,
but
man,
understand
jabronis,
that,
baby.
You know what I mean? Fishermen, right? Back in then.
But you had them all,
fishermen
man.
shout out now. Imagine
I know
that.
some fishermen.
Matt, you should read Matthew 1. The genealogy in Matthew 1 takes you through the lineage of Jesus, and it has prostitutes, and it has, all of these people. David's a cheater, and it goes through this entire story, and then it's like, and here's Jesus.
Right.
At the end. Look. It's like when you dive into it, and I know it's fairy tales and Santa Claus to some of our listeners, and listen, I know this podcast may have bored you to tears, but one thing that's interesting is what I've found is that people that are absent of the faith will listen in, even sometimes lean in a little bit more when you talk about it, because we are kind of going in deeper than what
they don't understand.
I wasn't
it,
ready for. I didn't know we'd go here. I
It
kinda
may
had a little
it
bit
may
of a
bore
feeling, but
it may bore, but it may also touch somebody's life and transform it as it.
I
did
just
mine.
hope you're leaning in. I hope you're leaning.
Yeah,
like if you're still listening with us, I hope you're leaning in with us. And I know I've got friends out there, and you know my heart, and you know me, and you know that this is nobody here saying that we're not judging you at all. We're just expressing the love that we know from a God that loves us so deeply and so true and so honest. And so, what's crazy is that when I asked you about passion, which is an interesting word, by the way, my uncle is like the head theologian at Dallas Theological Seminary, and if you get a doctorate degree there, you're going to have to go through him. He's translated several books of the Bible. In fact, when I used to Bible studies, and I started using the New English translation, and I was doing a study for these kids one time, and I was highlighting different things, and at the bottom it said like kind of translate. I went really deep into who the translation and all this stuff was, and it had like Dr. Richard Taylor, on there, and so I looked it up, and I was like, oh, this is so cool, and I clicked the link, and it was like his email, and then of course I had his email, but and so I was like, Uncle Rick, it is so cool that you wrote this part of the Bible. Wow. He emailed me back as quick as I've ever gotten an email. That's crazy. And he said, Jason, I just want to be absolutely clear that I didn't write any part of that Bible. He said, all I did was translate it.
That's funny.
I didn't add anything.
But by coincidence, you happen to just see all that.
Yeah, I was really diving in just by coincidence. I was like, this is my uncle right here in this New English translation, and I know he's done several other things like that and written a lot of books that
that's cool,
other people like that. But it's amazing. But his faith is so real, and it's not this uppity kind of like sometimes when you're outside. It is such a real faith that is transparent and it's real. It's non-judgmental. It's full of love. I mean, it's just an amazing thing, and it is people that I am convinced, absolutely convinced, it's people that walk their faith out that way. In this loving way is why the next generation is going to have our faith.
Right.
It's never going to be the screaming from the pulpit. It's never going to be the soapboxes. It's going to be the mothers and fathers, the brothers and sisters, the friends that love that love on those people so well that it just changes things. It's the only thing that does. It's the only thing that does.
I agree.
No, I've never seen anybody argued to Christ. That's the thing. I've never seen anybody argued to their salvation. You've now beaten me into submission. I know. I've never.
Well, that doesn't last, right?
It just goes away.
No, you can't just be good. I'm just going to be good. And no, it's a transformation that happens within that then is exposed on the outside. You know what I mean? And it's a process.
100%.
Because I think a lot of it's we mistake grace and just go out and think you can just also go live however, are you in Christ good? Well, I told this to Juice last night. We were talking and, excuse me, I said, I tell so many people when they ask me this, I was like, hey, man, are you and the Lord good?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Well, ask him.
Yeah.
And if you and him are good, because I think so many, we're so willing to look outside, but we're never really willing to look at that mirror.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the hard thing about faith is we have confirmation bias in us, and we read Scripture in our own bias. Like your story and my story, and how I'd read Scripture, and how you're going to read Scripture, and how these two are going to read Scripture, or how they're going to dive into their faith is going to not look the same.
That's right.
And so sometimes what is the right thing for you and the right thing for you isn't necessarily the right thing for my family. I know Christians that would never say curse words in their home, right? Yeah. They just won't. I mean, and it is a big thing. And again, if you're outside the faith, you're thinking, what are you talking about? Look, it is. But for my family, we've just decided that that's not going to carry. Words are meaningful, but they're not. It's not going to carry that much weight.
Yeah, words also.
So it's like little things. Yeah, it's little things though that sometimes are just different, And so in every family, I'm like, So I totally agree with you that you need to walk your faith out. The one pushback I say is that we have a bias, and sometimes when I say this is how your faith should look, I mean, if Jesus lived on this earth and he was fully human and fully God at the same time, then he had relationships. My relationship with you is different than Juice's relationship with you. Amen. But why can't his relationship with me be different than,
He also went to the well and sat with the lady that knew it nobody else talked to, and everybody made fun of because she had 5 husbands.
100%.
And he's the one that went and sat with her.
100%.
We can't forget that. You know what I mean?
You can't forget those things. And
what God's going to do and how he's going to do it is how he's going to do it.
I said it the whole time. Like there's a moment in time when you sit with somebody that may be doing something and that maybe they shouldn't be doing. Now if I'm in a relationship with we're in a relationship together and you see me doing something that I shouldn't be doing with my wife, for instance, or something of that with my children, I would expect you to pull me aside and say, hey, Jason, I love you like a brother, but we're in relationship. We're in relationship. When you're not in relationship with somebody, then it's a different story.
That's right.
Then you're in a judgment zone. And so because you don't know them, you don't know the story, you don't know how to lean into it. So I hear it all the time because a lot of times Christians will tell me, you got to get to preach truth and love. And I'm like, man, you got to be real careful with that.
Yeah. Maybe you need to be still and quiet until he tells you to speak.
Maybe you need to go over to that Holy Land and check it out.
Yeah. Maybe you need to be until he tells you what he, because
you feel it.
I heard a preacher preach this, saying all this in and through you're just sharing information. But when you speak what he calls you to speak, you're speaking transformation. And there's so much truth in that. You know what I mean? And I've learned that in my life. And I think that's why the Lord's called this with Holyland is until we get quiet and we get still and we get away and sit with him, it changes. The game changes. My wife and I were talking on the way over, man, and it's so cool to see that how things have just happened over the years. But I was telling her, I said, man, all I really want to do at this stage in my life is to just get off and get quiet and get still. I said, because the comfort and the peace that I receive from the love of God, that when I read the prodigal son and when I see the father with his arms open wide, I start to understand, man, he loved, man, I am getting engulfed in this love. And it changes. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, that's really what he's called. And I really think that with Holyland, and our goal is Godstock 2025. We're working hard towards that. We are the roads. We have built the roads. We've done all the dirt work. We're finishing the entrance now. We're finishing the last pond.
So you're getting close.
We're getting close to construction. We've started the chapel. We are in the design stage of the retreat center. I just got the first drawings on the way down here Friday of the retreat center, and it's going to be really, really cool, really rustic looking, like something you'd probably see in Montana. But sitting up on the hill.
I love it.
Overlooking the lake. And the amphitheater designing and the gold.
This is it right here.
That's
perfect. That's beautiful. Yeah.
We'll
throw some of this stuff. We'll throw some of this stuff up on the.
That's going to be a neat deal, and it's crazy because there's a story with all of them. I mean, the location of where we, found that. A good friend of mine that's on the board called, and he said, "Hey, we need to go. I feel like we need to go and mark where the chapel's going to go." Yeah. And I was like, "All right, let's go." And so we pull out there, and what's so crazy is the older guy I told you guys that I met with. He said, the Lord's going to send people and they're going to share with you, and because this vision is bigger than you, and when they do listen to him, and I was like, I'm like looking at this guy, like, you know what I mean, and like, but I received that from people of faith that God puts you together for a reason.
Like I said, I'm always harder on the Christians on this show, and really in life, and part of it's because, look, you get it. And but then there's a responsibility.
That's right.
And so I'm always going to be harder on Christians and look, judge me, boo. I'm here. But so if you get upset, DM me, comment, whatever, I get it. I can take it. I'm all right. But I want you to know I love you. I love the ones doing it right. I love the ones doing it wrong. Because I get that that may just be my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'll figure it out when. What the hell do I know, right? I'll figure it out on the other side of heaven. All I can fall on is love Jesus, be nice people. Again, shout out Brooks. And what I was going to tell you, and I want to wrap this section up because we could go on. In fact, I'm feeling like we may be doing the second section as a part 2 podcast because we're there, and we'll see how long this comes out. But we can do that. I'll put some disclaimers there. But what I want to tell you is that when I said your passion, I can see your passion. What I was getting at with my uncle. One time I said something about a new church being started in Atlanta. There was a church in Atlanta being started by a guy named Louis Giglio that was doing a lot of. He was a youth pastor through North Point Church and Andy Stanley. And I'm giving you some buzzwords. If you're in the faith, you're going to know these guys because they're pillars of speakers. Some of the top speakers in our country. Some even outside the Christian genre. They're incredible communicators. Andy Stanley's in my top 2 communicators that I've ever heard. Forget faith-wise. But Louis was out doing some passion conferences and conference stuff that you're talking about, and he came back and said, I'm going to do a church. And so people thought he was going to do his global church, and like, where do you want to go? We're going to donate. And he said, I'm going to do a church right in Atlanta. He called it Passion. City. And so downtown Atlanta, Passion City, and they do a great job. I think they, if you're looking for a great spot, I'd absolutely send you to North Point or check out Passion City, those two places. And what's nuts is Buckhead Church, which is part of North Point. They're literally like mile or two away in downtown Atlanta, and they just are packed with folks and doing some really, really, really cool stuff there. But I mentioned to my uncle about the name Passion City. He said, that's just so interesting, this word passion, because here we have this word passion means how much you're just so into it, right? But the passion of Christ, that word and the etymology of it was, him going to his death because he loved us so much.
That kind of passion. Yeah.
That's. But I hear your passion and how much you love this, and I think that's so cool. Dive into a lot of your farming. You've got the red oak turf. We just got done talking about Holyland Farms, which is amazing. You should check it out. Holylandfarms.org.
Yep.
Gosh, what else you got going on? I mean, it seems like everything you're doing. Cattle. You got peanuts. I mean, we're diving into a lot of that. We really went through a lot of that stuff in this first section. But before we move on to the second section in the last half of this podcast, I would like to talk about one game called Would You Rather. We're going to play a game.
I like this one.
We'll play a game, Would You Rather. All right. So here we go. You guys tell me what you would like to do. Be open, honest, and transparent, huh? Would you rather never laugh again or never use your smartphone again?
Smartphones.
Dude, I love.
You're off.
I love comedy, dude. Yeah, it's not even close. Right, smartphone
in the trash. I can't help but laugh.
Never laugh again or never use your smartphone again.
I'm not. If I could get to where I didn't have a phone,
So you would do the no smartphone, right?
Yeah.
Would you rather be gossiped about or never talked about at all?
Probably never talked about.
Think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. See, isn't there's no press is bad press sort of saying?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know, man. To never be talked about. I mean, I'd probably be okay with never talked about at all.
I guess it depends the gossip.
Yeah, maybe. Obviously. Like what? Yeah, how bad?
Yeah. If it's Bill Cosby, no, I'm good, dude. Don't talk about him. You know what I'm saying? But it just depends.
So you're saying it's all gossip?
Yeah.
All right. So forget who you were or forget who everyone else was. Would you rather
forget who you were,
forget everyone else?
I'd forget me.
Yeah, I think so. I'd want to know who I'm around, right? I'd want to know who I'm around. I think so too.
People can tell me who I am, but I got to remember who you are.
Yeah, I think I'd want to do that too. All right, face your fears or forget that you have them.
Forget that I have them.
Yeah.
Fears is just it's in your head.
Forget I have them. Yeah, I think that's almost better. Like the idea. Although when you face your fears, you overcome so much, you learn so much about yourself, and it develops you. I mean,
I do face your fears. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm torn. I might be facing my fears. All right, one more. Oh well, hear the good news first or hear the bad news first.
I'd rather let's go ahead and get it over with.
I'm the bad news.
Let's roll on.
I'm the bad news too.
Let's see where we got to go.
News too.
Yeah,
I agree.
Most people, though, when you're giving them something, I will tell you, most people want to hear good news first before they can take bad news. But for me, I'm bad news first.
Let's finish well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like that's why you
finish well.
That's why you eat dessert last, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's pretty good. That's why you eat dessert last.
Dessert last. I want the good news.
Oh, those crab legs were pretty good in the beginning.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, man.
Crab legs, boy.
Yeah, man. So again, our show sponsor today is holylandfarms.org. Holylandfarms.org. They when someone here's their tagline. It says, when someone enters Holyland Farms, our prayer is that the atmosphere for them changes. Our mission is to share the love of God and offer a place of retreat where one can find rest in the Father. I mean, that's great.
It's pretty good.
That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great.
You know, it's funny that to circle on that. The accountant, a good friend of mine, he's on our board, and he said we're filling out the application for the 501c3, and he said we got to put the mission statement in there, and I said I won't have it. He said, well, we got to have it. And I said, well, you're going to, all right. And I was talking to my wife, and I said, well, let me pray about it. And I woke up that next morning about 6:30, and I started I pull my phone out, and I do that a lot. I keep a notepad by my bed, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night, write things down. And but I wrote down to share the love of God and offer a place of retreat where one can find rest in the Father. And I was like, I was like, that's really simple. And it was like, well, that's all that there needs to be.
Yeah,
man. You know,
you know what I mean? And I texted that to him, and he was like, oh my God. He's like, it's just so neat because I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Mission statements should be listen, if you faith, not faith, whatever, mission statements should be short, to the point. They should be memorable and portable. That's it. You know, I see people sometimes write out mission statements and it's like 5 paragraphs or something. It's 3 paragraphs or whatever. That's like the worst. Truett Cathy had one, and it's in every Chick-fil-A. If you go to Chick-fil-A, and it says something like "food is essential, so therefore it should be good." I mean,
yeah.
No, there may be another mission statement, but that is in like every Chick-fil-A I've been into, and I remember it to this day. I mean, to me, that's so to the point. Food is essential, so therefore it should be good. You know, and it's to the point. And now they do so much more in a lot of this, out of their love. And to me, it's got to be a God thing when you can get 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids say "my pleasure" and to treat people so well. I mean, that's, to me,
we ought to look at winners win, right?
Yeah, that's a God thing to me. I mean, I know how hard it is to get 16, 17-year-old kids to throw away their trash.
Yeah.
And by the way, no 16 or 17-year-old kids watching this, we love you. We know you can do better. If you're listening to this, you're probably one of the ones that are responsible.
Yes.
Probably.
We could look into getting a Chick-fil-A put onto the Holy Farms. So that'd be pretty dope,
that'd be dope.
Oh, man.
I tell you all the time. What's so nuts is Truett was my I told this story before. Truett was my 7th grade Sunday school teacher, and then Dan was my 11th grade Sunday school teacher. And what's crazy is their son, or Dan's son, who is now the CEO of Chick-fil-A, was like a few years younger than me, Andrew. And I mean, what a knucklehead running around. I'm sure he's matured like I was a knucklehead too. And so it's just funny when you think, I kind of remember him a few years younger than me.
It's just kind of funny to me that Truett Cathy was your Sunday school teacher with all that he had and all that he had going on.
No,
that was probably.
So here's the problem: is I was in 7th grade and a knucklehead, and I didn't know what I had when I had it.
Right.
So I mean,
that's crazy to me.
Now Dan, when it rolled around in 11th grade, Dan was very to me, even to this day. Now I know it's not like I have Dan on speed dial or anything, but it's very memorable. I started recognizing at some point in 11th grade, I was still a knucklehead, but there were things that I listened to in those Sunday school classes that meant something. I've got, my youth pastor back then, a guy named Larry Lawrence, still on social media today, and shout out Larry, because he was highly influential in me. And so sometimes you think you're a knucklehead, but there's things that, he used to say things like a changed life. The best example is a changed life. It's a changed life. Thought like, I was like, 10, 16, 17 years old, and you're like, I don't even know if I understand this.
Right.
But I mean, wow, the best example of a changed life. Well, it's a changed life.
That's right.
He say things, and even today he'll post stuff at the end. In this day, he'll post things online, and at the end of it, he's like, "Leave no doubt." He used to always say, "Leave no doubt." Don't, and I say it sometimes too. That's still something from my youth.
That's good. Actually,
leave no doubt.
Yeah.
Leave no doubt. When you're in that room, you should leave no doubt whose you are. Leave no doubt.
I heard a guy tell me the other day. He said, "Will your life outlive you?" And I was like, "Well, you sit there and you think about that, kind of like same thing you're talking about. Talk's cheap, So many times you say that, and I share that a lot of times with my kids. But will your life outlive you?
Yeah.
With what you do in this time that you're here, carry on.
Well,
will it be impactful? And it will, and that can go both ways.
100%.
One way or the other.
It's going to be bad. And the other thing is you got to remember too. But my biggest legacy, and I really do. I think the biggest thing we can do as parents is really our legacies, our children. And to me, the best thing I'm going to leave this world is them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super excited about it. I think I can do a lot of stuff, but man, I am so excited about what they're going to do.
Amen.
I'm so excited about what they're going to do. I know there's people down on this generation. And again, if you're a young person, I know we got a lot of young people. I'm excited about what you can do. You see the world totally different than I see it, and I'm excited to see what you can do. So, if whatever I can do to help you, or how I can steward that, I want to help you. I am not one of these naysayers that this generation's not getting it. I get it. You get some bad raps. Heck, when I was coming up, I got a bad rap. We all got a bad rap. I just want to tell you. I want to tell you. I want to lean into it because you are the future. If we don't lean into it, we're not going to be ready.
And it should be our desire to help prop up somebody to do better than us.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It's like
100%.
cheering on Broadway, right? I mean, let's go. We want to go do Broadway. Let's rock and roll. Come on, baby girl.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, put these cowboy boots on with us and rock Broadway. Yeah,
that's right. So
awesome.
I want to before we get into the next segment, it is time, Juice's favorite time. It is quote of the day by Tay Tay. And so my kids love Taylor Swift, and I'm a girl dad, and
you are.
I'm all in. I'm there with Taylor Swift. I'm also a boy dad, but I'm in.
Oh, he likes her more than the girls, probably.
Jackson's in on Taylor. His girlfriend likes Taylor. He likes Taylor. He likes some of his stuff. Look, some of her stuff's good. I got two or three songs that are on my playlist. And she has a song from her song Christmas Tree Farm. It says, "In my heart is a Christmas tree farm where the people would come to dance under sparkling lights, bundled up in their mittens and coats, and the cider would flow, and I just want to be there tonight." Which I think is great. We're talking about farming, and what most people don't know is she grew up on a Christmas tree farm. How about that?
What, Maine or something? Or?
I don't know all of her story, but I'm just telling you, I read it somewhere. I read it somewhere. She grew up on a Christmas tree.
All I know is my children went, and it was real expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Our buddy's going, and he's. Yeah. I don't want to tell you what he's dropping on his.
Mike.
Yeah, he told you what those cost.
I haven't talked to him, but he tried to buy the tickets.
You were
off
gone.
Of Jackson.
Yeah.
He tried to buy the tickets off.
He
of
got
Jackson.
some from the New Orleans Saints owner. Second row.
I can only imagine what those.
Wow.
4 tickets.
Let's not say.
I'm not going to say it.
Let's not say it out loud.
That's a lot of money.
In fact, if you're watching this right now, you should comment, DM us, or wherever it is, wherever you're following us, comment how much you think that Mike spent on those tickets.
First off, you need to show everybody
4 tickets, row 2.
Yeah.
4 tickets.
He couldn't afford row 1, or it was He went with row 2. It was a little cheaper. Not much.
My goodness. Oh my goodness.
No, show everybody your Taylor Swift tattoo you got in Italy.
I didn't get one.
Oh, come on. Don't lie to them, dude. Show it.
Good.
Show it to him, bro. You know you got one.
That's so good.
That's good.
That's so good.
That would have been a good Christmas time.
I do.
Honestly.
That would have been a good one. I do. I have another tattoo coming, though. My daughter wants a tattoo really bad, and I've told my kids that we'll do them together. We'll do one together. So I did one with my son and hold fast. So we'll do another one, which has a lot of deep meaning to me. I've talked about it before, but and I've done all my stuff really have to do with faith. Sola Gratia is one of the 5 solos that Martin Luther put up there, which is faith or grace alone. Excuse me, it's grace alone. I've got another one down here, which is a Shiro, which is the XP from Constantine's first 2 letters of Christ in Greek. So I've got a lot of different tats but most of mine have deeper meanings to me, and I like tats.
The Swifty one's gonna
I get you. If you're not the Swifty one's going to throw off my messaging.
That's
for sure.
Kind of confused.
Mess it up.
Yeah, Juice gonna come over and try to take my man card if I do that one.
I ain't gonna come over.
So I do want to dive in our second part. Like I said, I'm wearing my Roma shirt. In this part 1, part 2 section here, and just came back from the vacation again. We were Greek Isles, amazing time, Santorini, Mykonos, and then we were in Florence and saw the David and many other works. Just amazing artwork, amazing scenery. We saw some bridges in Florence that go across the river there in Florence, the main river that goes through there. And on these bridges, what's interesting about them, there's about 4 bridges that cross Florence. And in those bridges, only one of them are left that the Nazis didn't destroy. The rest of them, the other 3, because they look old. The way they built them was, I guess, to keep the consistency of the look of these walking bridges and whatnot. But and some of them are drivable bridges, but for whatever reason, the main one, and it is gorgeous, and it has some shops on it and things. So it's the only one. They don't know why the Nazis didn't blow that up. But as it's going down, there's like these 4 bridges. You can imagine they blew up all 3 of them.
Well, they usually keep the one.
So they could probably move their stuff
their
around,
supplies,
and they controlled it. Yeah,
and then they controlled it if they lose. The World War II movies, you lose the bridge, you blow it.
That's true. Right.
Saving Private Ryan.
Right, Saving Private Ryan. Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's the movie I actually thought back to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're anti-Nazi here.
Yeah.
I can firmly state that we're anti-Nazi on this show. So I'm sorry if I'm offending you, but not sorry. So no apologies, right? So anyway, so we got into Rome then, and you're at the tail end of this vacation. You're coming in the last week, and we're sitting we're sitting in this piazza, this beautiful piazza I told you is Valentino's piazza when he was there. I mean, this thing, I'm telling you, they had redone it. This isn't like he never got redone. This is like, I'll have to show you some pictures. This place was for Europe, when you understand what the luxuries that they have compared to us. I mean, and again, I know if you're from another country, you're thinking, I love my country and all that. And you just don't know. If you haven't been to the States, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I think our bathrooms flush better. I think
mattresses,
the hot water, the mattresses, the air conditioning. But this place had good air conditioning, good toilets,
different outlets.
So different why is it their outlets? Like you put your hair dryer, even when you put your hair dryer into their outlets, into to the transfer on it, you have low and high. It gives you because the DC 110 to 120 to whatever theirs is over there is so different that it gives you full blast. You can't do low, you can't do high. It's like you have one of those hair dryers with like low, high.
No, I don't have a hair dryer.
I know what you're talking about.
What's he talking about?
So settings on a hair dryer.
You have one.
What's a hair dryer?
You have that.
The 30% women will totally know what we're talking about that watch this show. So, but it is different. There's so many different things that you don't realize. But this was just an amazing place to stay. And the first night we got there, we didn't have anything planned. We went and did dinner. But I don't know that I realized how everybody. My kid, what you start to realize on a trip like this, and it became so evident to me, is that as your children get older, when they're younger, you're doing a lot the same, and so you even get to sometimes where you're disciplining them all because they're all like kind of acting up, or everybody gets the same popsicle, or everybody goes the same. You get a lot the same when you're younger, and vacations when you're younger aren't really vacations. They're like just trials in your patience, you know? And so as you get older, it's so much. Yeah, you're about to see that, boy. But as you get older,
you're about to see a lot.
You about to see a lot. You're going to learn today.
We ain't going to be seeing Taylor Swift, I can tell you that.
Be careful.
If she's still playing, tell him, Jason. She's still playing, be careful.
You might be front row.
Hey, I remember saying my kids won't have smartphones.
Man,
kids
I
won't
see
do all
you
this.
with baby girl. If she wants to go see Taylor Swift, you're going to be a Taylor Swift.
You're going to be a Taylor Swift. Yeah, you're going to be a Taylor Swift.
You're backstage.
I lay money if she is still playing. You don't understand, too, how many Taylor Swift she's going to be getting from now till the time she wants
You'll
to.
Be buying a Swiftie doll before long.
Well, I'm going to be buying Swiftie stuff for her nonstop. Like, you don't understand.
You definitely can't encourage it.
We will introduce her
to
Taylor Swift.
That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. You don't have any, you're out on that.
That's all I'm doing.
I'm moving.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm buying a Taylor Swift onesie tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I mean,
don't waste your money.
Juice is love.
Oh no, I'm waiting until she can say yes and thank me for it. Then she's getting all this, because then you won't be able to take it away.
She's speaking 3 languages now. What are you talking about? She can say yes in 3 languages.
I love it. So here we are. We're enjoying. I mean, you just realize that your kids are they're adults. Why wouldn't they be different? And so when you've got a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and essentially a 16-year-old, you start to realize that what one needs and what the other needs, and they like it just starts diversion happening.
Different interests,
and it really is. And so our next day we had this excursion to actually the Vatican. We were getting this kind of private tour to take us through after hours.
Ooh, the deep state, let's get into it.
Listen, it was my worst.
Did you go underground?
No, because they're doing a jubilee, and they're right now Rome's going through the jubilee every 25 years is a jubilee. So the Romans have for 25 years. And by the way, the people in Rome, and if you're watching this, you live in Rome, you would agree with me on this because you're the ones that even told me and complain about it. But the jubilee is coming up every 25 years, but they wait for the last year to do all their restoration work. So you have so many things that are like kind of shut down, and metro stations shut down. And so there was some angst that I had there, and the church is commercializing things a little bit more than they have a decade ago. So there's some weird issues that I probably dealt with, but at any rate, we're going on an excursion, and we're trying to get ready. And I the night before, Jackson had an attitude, and I can't tell you. Still to this day, I'm not sure why he had the attitude, but there was an attitude there, and he just hit it right. Yeah. He just hit a wall, and then the day we're about to leave, Isabella hits a wall, and she's having attitude, and Danielle and I are like, what the flip, man? Yeah. I mean, here we've got this vacation of a lifetime in Valentino's Piazza in the heart of Rome. I mean, I'm looking out at the Forum, right across from me. I mean, it's insane where we are, and the experience that they're having and all this stuff. And we just have a knockdown, drag out, blow up fight. I mean, it was like...
Y'all's family has those?
Yeah. Full transparency.
Yeah.
Not my greatest parenting moment, because I think I even went old school, like, you're going to do what I tell you to do. And they're like, you know what? I'm 18, 20 years old. I ain't going to do it. So the dynamics have shifted.
Yeah.
And so it was... But the great thing about it is, and I love my family for this, is that we... rallied back, and we had deeper discussions about how to communicate better. But what's great is, as a father, though, as we are finally now making it out to our excursion, I'm texting my concierge, and I'm like, is there a pool and cabana anywhere in Rome for tomorrow? I want to cancel everything we have going on, and I want to pool day it. And she texts me back and does that. And so we have like a reset moment. I totally realized, like, I had a bad moment, and then it was like, all right, I know what they need, and we need a reset moment to get this thing back on track, and we need to sit down and relax and enjoy it. And I say all that to say, I know that faith farming, and certainly family is important to you. And work-life balance is a buzzword now, but it is really important, though.
It's hard.
And I mean, what are the things you do to try to balance out your life?
Don't ask my wife this question. Man, it's hard. It's probably my biggest struggle, because it's
everyone.
Well, agriculture is one of those, and you look at it right now. Everybody's talking about this storm that's coming up into the Gulf, and you predict, well, it's going to be a tropical storm. Well, now we're at a 1, and then next thing you know, and gets in the Gulf, and we're sitting there, and it's at a 4 or 3 or whatever, and for most people, they're just like, oh, this is a storm. For me, I got 350 head of mama cows on different farms scattered. Well, 70-mile-an-hour wind and 10 inches of rain, there's a lot of trees fixing to go down. And well, what happens at that? Well, now we're up in the middle of the night, or we're up the next morning, and we got equipment moving trees off fences so cattle don't get out.
Right.
Then you've got you got however many acres of cotton or peanuts. Well, if a lot of wind comes down, it lays the cotton down. You got corn getting harvested, it lays the corn down. So there's so many. And the thing about farming is when it's time to go, you got to go. And like when it comes time to plant, the window usually opens. We usually start late April. Well, this year we had all this rain, and I kept telling my wife, we started and planted a third of our crop, and all this rain came in for 2 weeks in the middle of planting time when we'd be wide open. We wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, well, you need any help with the kids? And she was like, this is really weird.
You can't do anything. Yeah.
But then when it came time to go, it was 2 weeks from 5 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night.
You turn the headlights on.
Yeah, you got to roll.
That's right.
And so that is so hard in the industry that I'm in, because when you do have to go, I mean, there's been a lot of nights, and she'd tell you that we've had a lot of hurricanes come in, and we're picking cotton, and I mean, we've gone 48 hours in a row, and I not see the family. You know what I mean?
When you go, you go. That's farming.
And it's my life with everything going on with Holyland and a lot of that. It's really, really busy. So I try to be intentional.
I think intentional is the
my
word.
Kids,
that's a great word.
That's it.
You got to be intentional.
I think that's it for guys. You got to be really intentional.
I'm not going to miss my kids' activities. If I cannot miss a practice, I'm not going to miss a practice. I'm not going to miss a game. My daughter cheers this year. She'll be a cheerleader. I'm not going to miss a high school football game to do that.
Right.
So I think it's just being really, and the same with my wife. I think for a lot of times us parents or adults, we forget about the spouse, whether it be male or female, and the kids come and the kids run the home, the kids rule everything. And I really, and this is something I work on. I don't do great at it, but my wife and I talk a lot about it, is being intentional with her, and vice versa, her being intentional with me, because that can, it can be separated. And then, they say year 3 or year 7 or year 17 is the highest divorce rate. And if we look at it by statistics, it's more chance that you're going to be divorced than you're going to stay married.
Oh, yeah. It's like 50-50.
Well, they're
50-60%.
skewed a little bit because people married multiple times, right?
Well,
so I went down this rabbit hole. It's 50-50.
Yeah. Overall, it's about 50-50.
Yeah, because it's originally 70%
on the first marriage. But, and what's really weird about marriage is, and I read this statistic as well, but because you talk about the 7-year itch. And most people, though, they get into that. So what you don't realize about marriage is your first 10 years, you're trying to get off all of your selfishness. Because if you think about it, you're growing up. I mean, everything's been about you. No matter what age you get married at, right? It's all been about you. It's all been about you. Consume. And then you get married with somebody, and everything is about you still. So you're trying to figure that out. And it's tough. It's hard, and it's iron, and it's all those things.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to that.
It's tough, right? And then the next 10 years, you start to shake that. You come out of that selfishness of who you both were really, and you trying to figure out how can I live for the other person? How can I figure out the rhythm, right? And then when you get past that 20 years, there's a rhythm, right? But the problem is most people keep reliving the first 10 over and over and over and over again.
I think going to, this comes over me thinking about, the question you asked, is it not being about you?
Well, I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
100%,
thinking of time and all that. Like
100%.
my wife's passion and her
100%.
gift is she loves choreographing, dancing, and music, and she grew up in that world, and she does that and donates her time for the local high school, and
awesome.
Like all the way down here, she's over there with her headphones on, and she's dancing and doing. I'm looking, I'm like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? I'm like filming. I'm like, hey,
that's
like,
awesome.
What are you doing? But she's choreographing, and that's her gift.
It's got to go on the TikTok.
You know what I mean? Serving these kids, and we love on a lot of these kids that majority of the people aren't going to go love on.
Man, that's
because
the
they're
next
like
gen,
they
baby.
look at them like they're in the drama program or this, and that's what my middle child does. So for me, as like my son's playing football, and that's second nature.
Yeah.
I'm all in. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But then my daughter's at the drama program. I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
This isn't this. You know what I mean? And I think really being, I think that's what it's about.
Man, 100%. I think that's a great lesson for us to learn. Is how I think the one take I took from you, and I think that's really an important word, is intentional. If you can be intentional about it, you've got all your stuff, but if you figure out like when you're getting done, how do I come back to this family and be intentional with my time too?
Amen.
Right? And so what you said it. I mean, what the heck do I know? I think you're dead on. So Juice has told me so much about his cousin that knows Kirby Smart. And it started out somewhere that I think it was like a roommate. Then it was like maybe in a dorm room. Then it's like I don't even know what the story is. It's so diluted.
There's some
now.
story in there.
There's got to be a story about
It's
it.
kind of one of those you sit around the room, you tell the person beside you.
Yeah,
and see where it
the
ends up.
telephone game came back. The telephone came back. I think it's important for our viewers to know. I mean, I want to understand. Can you elaborate on how you know the soon-to-be greatest coach of all time?
Well, I think he is.
I was leaving a little room for.
We're
the
not going to
doubters.
put a statue of him at Holyland. I'll tell you that. But, it's that's crazy. So my brother, take it back. He went to school at Bainbridge, and I went to school at Tifton. So
that's right. He's a Bainbridge kid. That's right.
We played ball. Yeah. He played.
He was a
football
safety,
against
right?
Tift County, and so then he went to Georgia. So my brother went to he went to Georgia in 2000, I think that's right. And it was kind of funny because Kirby graduated, and he was a graduate assistant coach at Georgia.
That's right. Because I
went with Donnan.
I went to Georgia. He was with Jim Donnan.
That's right.
I went to Georgia in '97, I think it was.
Okay.
And I transferred from Georgia State to Georgia.
Okay.
My wife then went there in '97 as well. I graduated in 1995 from high school, but Kirby, I think, is like 2 years older than me.
Right.
But he was on the field with Champ Bailey and Kirby and Robert Edwards, I think,
right.
and Mike Bobo.
That's right.
And all those guys. And so I was in Jacksonville in 1997 when they finally beat Florida in '97. Right. And it's right after Florida had the national championship in '96. Mm-hmm. And so we had some different chants that I can't say here of what we chanted, but it's something about them being good in '96, but now they can do something else. So It was not a good chant, but that's just how we are in dogs. So
I know what rhymes with 6.
Sometimes at the greatest cocktail party, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, you get a little rowdy, and I'm not proud of some of those moments for sure. But what a game! And I remember Kirby. I can remember Kirby intercepting Peyton Manning and being at that game. I mean, but Jim Donnan,
Your favorite coach all time, wasn't
he? He's better than Ray Goff.
Ray Goff.
He's better than Ray Goff. And Jim Donnan gave us Mark Richt, and Mark Richt has given us Kirby Smart. Yeah. That's the way I look at it.
It's funny because my dad, we were sitting in the living room, and my brother, I won't never forget it. He came down and he was talking, and the Donnan era. And he had so many stories. Well, that was kind of silly, but Justin he was there 4 years, and his last year he played underneath Rick. In his 4 years that he was there, he took the drug test every time they gave a drug test because you had certain people that you knew would pass the drug test and others didn't. So. That's a whole other story.
No,
we know it's like there's drug tests going around. Well, I get to take it again.
Can you help me out?
Yeah, but my dad asked him because he coached us all in ball and with him playing for Bear Bryant and kind of being his.
That's where your dad was he in Alabama then?
68 and 69.
In Alabama, 68, 69. Okay.
So he asked my brother. He said, "Well, on the coaching staff." He said, "Who's the best coach?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Daddy, you're not going to believe this."
Yeah.
And he said, "It wouldn't be who you would think." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?"
Right.
He said, "It's a graduate assistant." He said, "It's Kirby Smart."
Come on, baby.
And
you're talking 2000.
Yeah. So he was like,
because he was a graduate
and I
assistant.
think that's when it was some, and he said, "Daddy, that guy's a genius." He said, "When we're watching film or whatever, he said Kirby would be the one." He's like, "Hey, coach, hold on just a minute. Back that up for a minute. Let me look at something."
Come on.
His
dad was a coach too, though, right?
Yeah, his dad was a coach at Bainbridge. Yeah. And so Kirby left there and went to Valdosta State.
That's right.
And he and Mummy, I mean, not Mummy. Muschamp. Muschamp was down there with Coach Hatcher, who was at Valdosta State, who had an unbelievable program at that time.
Yeah, they were really good then.
When Kirby moved down there,
he became the defensive coordinator there too.
I kind of did like a 6-year deal, I wasn't working on any doctorates or anything. I was just kind of. It took me a little longer.
I was like 5. I was 5. So
I just like to study. I just wanted to study. Well, I took 5 full. You know what I mean? I was fixing to start 6.
You were what they called an academic.
Yeah. I was. It was an academic, all right. But it was kind of neat because he and I ended up living together. So he moves down, and he and I lived together. Didn't see each other a lot because with football and
y'all lived in the same dorms?
Lived in the same house.
Same house.
We had a house.
Lived in a house with Kirby.
Yeah, we lived in a house together,
amazing.
And we didn't.
Now, so you've got him on speed dial now, right?
No, I don't think anybody has Kirby on speed dial.
Somebody's got to have him. He called the kid from the Olympics the other night.
Yeah,
the swimmer, the breast. You see that? The breast. Maria. Well, Maria, the announcer, the analyst. She's an ESPN graduate from the College of Journalism there at school at UGA, and she was interviewing the young guy, the Georgia swimmer that was a breaststroke. I think he won gold in breaststroke, and she FaceTimed with Kirby, and it was all in the news and surprised him.
It's funny because I text him. I have his number, and I text him a lot, and I always send him something encouraging through the year with the battle because my knowing of Kirby, and there went a long time. We lived together there for just that year.
Yeah.
And you go 20 years, and from there, and you see, but the one thing I would say, just knowing him, man, he's a winner. You're not going to beat him. Period. That's it. I mean,
one of the most competitive people I've heard. He's
hands down.
I've heard he'll fight you.
We played intramural.
He'll outwork you in ping pong.
Yeah, we played intramural football. We played intramural softball together, and I mean, and that's what I was talking to a guy the other day, and we were talking football, and he said something about Georgia and this, and I said, let me just tell you something. Yeah. As long as he's coaching,
he's going to figure it out.
I mean, he is.
And Kirby,
and
we trust.
Was taught.
Baby.
I mean,
Kirby, we trust.
Nick Saban. Him being trained and raised underneath the best, but even Nick Saban saying, "I'm going to tell you something. Georgia's getting the best he is."
Yeah,
because he is. I mean, he's a winner.
100%,
he's not.
100%.
And it goes back to, I guess, that statement: when it gets to where everybody else can't stand it, it's just getting right.
Getting right.
That's who he is.
Getting good.
You're not going to beat me. if you do beat me, I'm coming. I will outwork you. I'm going to outdo, and that's who Georgia is, and that's what they've created. They're a monster, man.
You let Kirby know that he has a seat here on What the Hell Do I Know podcast. Anytime he wants to come down, him and Taylor Swift,
that's good.
They're invited.
Maybe they'll ride. They might fly together. Come together. Yeah.
Come together.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't he have some girls? I know he's got sons that are killing it in their own sports in their own right, but he's got a couple daughters too, right?
Sure.
I feel like he has some young.
His wife.
His wife was an amazing athlete,
basketball player.
Yeah, she's from Mara, Georgia. So I was from McDonough, Georgia, where I grew up, but she's from Mara, Georgia, just up the road, and was setting records.
Georgia used to be really good at women's basketball.
It's funny, man, because
I don't know that she wasn't a better athlete as far as sport. I'm not saying aggression, all that stuff. I'm just saying she was the baller for Georgia, for sure.
It's funny. I go back my text messages. I text him all because we went to a game not too long ago, and the team was coming out, and everybody's standing in line, hollering all this stuff, and Aaron's like, "You hadn't seen him," and I was like, "No." I was like, "Watch this right here," and I just kind of grabbed the state patrolman and pulled. I was like, "Excuse me." He was like, "You can't do that." I said, "Man, that's all good." And I leaned forward, and I was like, "Hey!" And he turned and looked and just stopped. Came over. I gave him a big hug. And,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
He just, man, he's the real deal. But I will. I mean, we don't talk or anything like that because I can't. I saw an interview he was doing, and they were asking him about coaching. He was like, "You sit at the couch. Mm-hmm. That's where I stay."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of coaches probably go home.
Yeah. He's so focused.
Nah, he's dialed in.
Dialed in, man.
He's coming, and he's all. And I remember Nick Saban saying. Kirby said, they said, "What was it like coaching for Nick Saban?" He said, when he called you at 3:00 in the morning, they say, "Hey, I'm watching the film, and this certain defense they get in or this certain offense they get in." He said, "Number one, you better have an answer to this question. Number two, you better sound like you're not asleep at 3:00 in the morning." He's the same guy.
Yeah, no, he's I don't know enough about him, other than what I know on the news, right? And hearing from you is really cool to hear. Some amazing, just humanize him because to me it's just like he is the hardest worker I've ever seen, and I've read articles about he analyzes things so well in his every aspect of it. I've always said in business that you've got to look at your business and you got to look at every aspect of your business, but then you got to look at it and figure out what's right in it, promote that, what's wrong in it, fix that, and then you got to start over. And you got to do it, and most people, they don't ever start over. And you got to do it and all that. A lot of times people feeling when they correct it, well, I'm just going to move on. Well, that's great. You do, but then you got to come back, and you got to check, did that stick? Did that stay? What's new in it? Because there's always going to be tweaks that can happen.
I think
Kirby seems to be the guy that's analyzing every single aspect of it.
And then the fire that these guys are raised and trained up in. I mean they're the workouts and the things that they're doing. I mean,
nutritional. Just all the stuff.
Nutritional, the whole deal. Yeah. But then when it comes time to go to war, he sees it as war. He doesn't see you from a standpoint of I'm coming out to play. I want to devour you.
I'm ready to. I'm ready to run through the wall myself. After I hear these
you
speeches.
see like that picture you got right here. That's him. I mean, you look at that. Yeah. That's who he is.
Come on, Curbs. I'm down, man. I would run through a wall for Kirby Smart right now and play.
Yeah, the only coach I would compare to him is like Mike Norvell. That's the only other coach.
Oh, quit it!
He's got the fire, dude.
Did you see they? I think they played each other back in. There's a picture of them. There's a picture of them.
His high school team was in for that one.
I think it was in college. I think they were in college together.
Did they? No,
they showed. You know what? I don't know that they played against each other, but
I don't even know where Norvell went.
When we played in the bowl game, they had a picture of Mike Norvell. He had cornrows.
Oh, I do. Okay, yeah, they did.
And there's like a cornrow picture of him and the Kirby Smart, which was the same haircut he has today.
Yeah, that's right.
Kirby has, but when you do a deep dive, Mike Norvell was doing something inner city, and he was helping kids out, and he was doing something, and so he did the cornrows for them inner city.
Cool.
And then he had a picture, and people were like, "Oh, look at him! He's trying to do all this." And when you hear the backstory, he was actually diving into kids' lives and doing something right before that picture was
Okay,
taken.
I didn't know this.
It actually makes me like. I think the guy's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
And
So I like him, and Kirby's the best. I mean,
come on.
I think there's gonna be a lot of locking heads for the next 10 years between Florida State and Georgia.
Well, I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready to give you those props. They're gonna have to show it, but
they showed it last year, bro.
So I appreciate what you're saying. I appreciate what you're saying.
Well, they did. They were undefeated.
Just tell them to come on into the SEC. Tell them come on in.
They're trying. They're trying, bro.
Come on in and play.
They're trying. They went 2-0 against the SEC.
There's high school.
I could do 2-0 in the SEC if I didn't have to play the SEC.
They beat 2-0 in the SEC.
Texas will not be.
They beat the Heisman winner.
Mark my words.
Shut them down.
Texas will. Viewers, listeners, I apologize. I apologize that we're getting on an SEC tangent here.
No, let's do it.
But Texas will not be Texas anymore now that they're playing the SEC schedule.
I mean, I agree with that.
They'll have moments. They'll have moments, but they are.
I think
you can go ahead and cancel the 12-0 seasons. It's done.
Yeah. It's going to be tough for every team in it.
Well, I'm just thankful that they opened the playoffs because it's going to be hard for all of us. For the SEC.
It'll be fun to watch Georgia this year with the schedule they have.
They're stacked. The best team.
It is so hard.
Yeah.
Listen, if we come out of the schedule unscathed, they might as well hand us the natty.
Oh, for sure.
If you come out of they're already going to build a statue.
They'll have to play somebody else.
Yeah, they're going to build one.
They're going to let him go undefeated this year.
So you were talking about Warrior. You were talking about Warrior. Do you know? Did you see that when you were living with him? These speeches. I mean, he has this way about himself to fire people up. He came in, that speech that gets leaked, it's locker room fodder, and he had that one speech from the Florida game.
Oh yeah, he caught heat for one of them.
He catches heat from them all, but man, he just fires people up. Did you see that?
He's a winner, man. I mean, from the standpoint of sports and that life.
People don't understand it if they're not from it.
He lived it. He grew up in. I mean, he had a dad. That coached and did all that, and then he came up. I mean, I remember him getting in a fight in a Tift County football game over on the sidelines, and just that.
Was it his own teammates just trying to tell him?
He was. There were several of them from Tifton and him back and forth, and then playing on that level in college, and then going from there, and then coaching with. We look at Valdosta State, but Chris Hatcher was one of the best coaches this ever coached.
100%.
Hands down.
100%.
I mean, that guy was a genius with what he did at Valdosta State. And Kirby going and being with him and seeing it from that level. And then going from there and then, ending up with – he went to LSU. And then from there –
into Miami.
And then he
ends
Alabama. Up with Alabama with Saban.
Well, he followed Saban from LSU, Miami to Alabama.
And then here he comes – in Georgia, and they're like, well, I'm saying, y'all are crazy. I kept telling everybody. I said, they were like, well, he hadn't done real good. I said, give him a minute. If you don't think for 1 minute, there's nobody outworking him. And when you and I see it, the same passion we talked about it earlier. The same side with like this with Holy Land. When it's your life and everything about what you do is that. And you're ingrained in it every day, day in, night, all the time. And somebody's like, and you get an opportunity to talk about it. Game on. Let's go. You know what I mean? And so it's exciting.
Yeah, that's just. Did you have before we move on from Kirby? I mean, you got any crazy stories that you can share with us?
Bar fights or anything?
Any weird things coming in late? I mean, it sounds like he was probably so focused though, doing all this stuff. I mean,
it might have been like. He might have been in the bed before I got home.
He might have had more stories about you.
Hey, we're already interviewing the wrong guy.
We'll probably leave it at.
How many people roomed in that house? How big was the house?
Ask me no questions. I tell you no lies. You know what I mean?
How many people were in that house together? You and him, or is there just the two of you?
The one bedroom?
Well. Nah.
Let's not get that rumor going, Juice.
What? Come on, man. We gotta get clickbait.
We talking about.
I don't. Looking back, I mean, because you got to think too. I mean, you're 20. What is it, 25 years ago?
I mean, he would have been, he was 2 years older than me at around that 2000.
20 years ago, man.
So
I'm 47.
Yeah, so I'm 47 as well. So he's 49, so he's
36.
Yeah, I didn't see him a lot. I mean, I don't remember, I remember we'd hang out some and we'd do some things together, but I mean, him coaching, you didn't.
That was the focus, right? Yeah, well, he actually started as like assistant there or something and became the defensive coordinator.
I never really saw him a lot, but it's so cool too to see because now my daughter going to Georgia and I know that we'll cross back paths because ever since he went there, I mean, I'll send him a message.
Yeah.
And I don't get responses back. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no telling me
No.
people sending him
Oh,
messages.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But I just send him, hey, man, I love you. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you.
Yeah.
It's good to see that
Yeah.
you're doing good. Keep
Yeah.
digging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
know you got somebody in your corner
For sure.
praying for you. And that's who I am. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. And so when it was funny because he saw my brother at a Braves game, and he was like asking John, he was like, so what's your brother doing?
Yeah.
And they were talking, and he was telling him about this with Holyland Farms.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, Jason?
Yeah, that's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? It's
That's
just
great.
kind of funny
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
how, because I know in time,
Yeah.
the Lord allow those paths to cross back.
Yeah, sure.
And
sure.
it's just cool to see how
Yeah,
things happen.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I can grab him up and love him, hug him,
Yeah.
and all on, you know.
Yeah, well, listen, you just whisper in his ear, say, "Hey, those boys down in Destin, Florida,
Old podcast
they
guys.
got $2. They got a $2.50 podcast, but your picture is right in the
Right
center
behind
of it.
them.
Right in the center of it.
He's a good dude.
So yeah.
Oh, your wife's got to put in a good word
Side-
for his daughter, though. Kate Marie, she wants to do law school at Georgia.
Oh yeah, you know what? Well, my wife did law school at Georgia State.
Oh, okay,
so,
got you.
She could have gotten into Georgia. We both went to University of Georgia, graduated there, and then she again go dogs. So she though I had jobs going towards the city.
Mm-hmm.
And the commute and just certain things. So we just decided that, and actually I ended up going back and working there in the sanitation company. And so, hour and a half drive one way sort of thing, 2 hour drive one way. Georgia State was just
more realistic.
More realistic. So she ended up going to Georgia State, which most people don't know this. The law schools of Emory, Georgia State, and University of Georgia, they share a lot of the same professors these days.
No, okay.
So they, a lot of these professors will teach a class on Mondays and Wednesdays at like Georgia, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays at Georgia State, and then maybe the same Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons at Emory. So kids. Look at who the professors are. Look at what you're doing, because you could pay
significantly less
$60,000. You
somewhere
could
else.
pay $60,000 for this degree, or you could
Jason, you
pay
listening to this?
10. So or whatever the degrees
just
are.
thankful she's
I don't
wanting
know
to
what the
stay in
prices are,
Georgia.
but yeah. Right. So side note though, your wife was UJ's Uga's handler.
Yeah.
The dog handler. Those of you that don't know the lore of the University of Georgia,
where's that?
We got a picture of Uga somewhere on here. Maybe
biting a leg?
I don't have that one.
thought
We
we had
lost
that
that
one.
game. I don't like that picture. We lost that game. Yeah, but she was the handler for Uga on the field.
And she would carry
right?
it around to all the
Did she go on the way
The
games
fun
too?
ways
Or
or- yeah.
so did she know the
Charity.
Silers? How did she get this? She know the Silers or what?
She worked the boxes, so she would take the dog up and carry him up and let people see.
Yeah, I mean, how did y'all meet, by the way?
So she's from Tifton. It's crazy. We met in church, really, but we went to high school together. She was 2 years younger than I was, and I always she tells the kids and gives me a hard time. She was like, "Your daddy was like, I don't know about this guy. You know what I mean? He's 2 years older. He's just a football guy, and he's like, hey." And she tells the story. I passed her in the hall one time on Friday, and she had her little cheerleading outfit on. I popped her on the tail, with my shirt, and I was like, "Hey," and she's like, oh my god, who's this guy?" But
So the high
I
school.
called
So
her,
are we
I
talking
called
high
her
school?
one time in high school,
Okay.
and she was like, "I don't really know about this guy."
Yeah.
So, yeah, but when I moved back, started the turf farm. It was kind of funny. A guy asked me, he's like, "Hey man, why don't you come go to church with me one Sunday?" Because it was 7 days a week. I told you I moved home. My dad handed me this check, and he's like, "You got to make this work, or we can't afford to pay it back." And so for me, he just went straight tunnel
like
vision, all in. Let's go.
Yep.
And so it was 7 days a week, 14, 18-hour days, and this friend of mine was like, "Man, are you just gonna work your life away?" And I was like, "I'm just trying to make it work."
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Come go to church with me." So I was like, "All right, that's cool." He's like, "You're not ever going to meet a girl out here on the farm anyway." And I was like, "Ah." So I went to church with him, and we went there, and I was sitting there, and I was like, "Hey, who's that over there?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "You remember Erin Ellis?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the girl I hit with my shirt." Nah, it was I saw her, and then went up and talked to her. We went I went, and I was like, "I need to go back."
Yeah.
I might have been,
Yeah.
but I went back.
Yeah.
But I did like
Yeah.
the preacher. He was good.
Might have been Jesus.
ended up-
Hey, Jesus can
Jesus
use
was
anybody.
lining it up.
Jesus can use anybody,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
Jesus can use anybody.
So I went back, and we started dating, and dated for about 6 months. And I was like, "Man, I'm thinking about getting married." I was like, So we ended up breaking it off for a little while, and then we got back together. And so here, then I meet Jason.
I didn't approve of
Then
them, so
meet
they had to break
Jason
it off.
and all those guys and Mike and the whole
You weren't
bunch.
the approval of that. You didn't approve that part. You said.
Oh yeah, Dad ate last night with us, Mike.
Oh yeah,
Magic
Mike.
Mike.
Magic Mike.
He didn't want to come over.
Mike,
I was trying to
man.
get him to
He's
come
great.
over today.
Man, I like
Mike's
Mike.
my guy.
Mike's.
I told Mike I want to do a podcast with him, and talk about all the women, hitting on him there in that senior center.
Oh, dude.
But it was good, man. She's going back to
great.
you brought up about family and all the stuff and the balance.
Yeah.
If I wasn't married to her, I couldn't do what I do.
Man,
because
it takes a strong woman, buddy.
We've been through a lot, and life's a lot, and you go through the first couple years of marriage, and you go all the way into now we're fixing to be married 20 years.
No, congratulations.
And coming up, and so in February, that's right.
Yeah.
But
I'm
we'll be
February as well.
I am too. February 10th, 2001.
wow.
Yeah.
So we're 26th, and so we'll be married 20 years, and I look at it now and see, and that's the only way, man, because she gets it. She knows that I know where Jason's at. I know what he's about. I know where his heart is. I know what he stands for. I know what he's out doing. And hey, you go. It's like being here.
Yeah,
She's like, hey, we're going. Dad's going to do this. Let's. You know what I mean? Well,
rally around it.
Yeah. But it's also when it comes to the drama program, and we got to go do.
You got to die in too.
Tony or whatever it is. Let's roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's
you
go
got to
do
dive.
Cinderella.
You got to dive. That's right.
Cinderella.
That's right. You need to go see Taylor Swift. You go see Taylor
No,
Swift.
you got to draw the line somewhere, Jason.
Nah,
You're gonna learn.
You
You're gonna learn
somewhere.
You're gonna learn, Juice. You're gonna learn. So you have a senior. Talking about family, you have a senior, and this is second stage. You can see we kind of a lot of times we work in the first stage where we talk about business and we talk about some of that stuff. But and some of it flows over. But we're kind of in this family side and things of that nature. But you have a senior. You graduating this year, and we've talked about this. We've talked about the family dynamics, even in some of ours. And Brandon's got a girl leaving. His oldest is leaving. It'll be his first, and he's experiencing it. He's getting ready to know. But what are you doing to prepare for the eventual day when your family dynamics begin changing? I mean, what are you doing? Have you thought through that far? Because you might be living in the moment, but you are about to have in a year's time from now. I see
not
with
be at your house.
With Kate Marie. Kate Marie's always been. She was our first child,
Right.
And so for Aaron and I, man, just that love that I encountered with. I think people can understand, and I related a lot. I never knew I could love something like that.
Oh, right.
And so I saw that,
right.
and then I hear and I start to see, well, he loves me more than that, and I'm like, oh my
Right.
God, this. So, but with Kate Marie, she's a very good child, and I've always been intentional with all my kids. I've always strived to spend a lot of time with them, and whether that be going out to dinner or going and talking or laying down with them at night and just talking with them. And but with her going off to school, I see her wanting to really expand with. I'm ready to go see the world.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go off to college. I'm ready to go and be who God's called me to be.
Yeah.
And I guess really as a dad, trying to be that cheerleader, but also, sitting down and having those conversations of, hey, this is kind of how some of this is going to look.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, hey, here's some of this.
Yeah.
Hey, here's some of how this is. Hey, you need to kind of be cautious. She's like, Daddy, well, I mean, and I understand, just go, but I'm telling you, especially as a little girl,
Yeah.
because we live in a sick world. We can call it whatever it is, but especially with daughters.
It was a fallen world for sure.
Yeah,
So,
and so
yeah.
I mean, and I don't mean that bad. A lot of people tell, "Oh, you're trying to be all doom and gloom."
It
It is what it is. Sex trafficking's real.
Come on.
There's a lot of things that happen.
Listen, as a dad, if you
Yeah.
ain't telling your daughters, if you're out there and young women that are out there, if you're not going in packs to places and if you're not taking care of each other, there's so many bad things that happen.
yeah.
We have products that are for bars that you put over drinks and the straws to protect from being.
Well, I
roofied.
told my daughter,
You
take
it's a
fentanyl
real
and
world.
what all
It's
that
a
is,
real
man.
world.
Somebody come and give you a Jolly Rancher and you boom, you're dead, man. You know?
Yeah.
So
Man, I talked to the other guy. The guy the other day told me, he said, "Man, I stopped buying cocaine in Destin because all the fentanyl." And it's like, okay. And he's like, "I go across state line." I'm like, "You don't think it goes there?" I was like,
Yeah, I wouldn't be touching none of that stuff. So you got to be careful these days.
So mine is just really trying to spend that time with those guys and really with her and understanding for Aaron and I, because I see it and it happens so fast.
Yeah.
Like, man, like yesterday she was 3.
Yeah.
And now she's leaving this house.
Yeah.
But
days are long, the years are fast.
And even like with my little son, he's big in travel ball and he loves all that, and that's great. Your time's coming, but my daddy's time in Cape Marie, we're going to enjoy this, and I'm so thankful. I'm really so thankful with her. She loves her mom and daddy.
Yeah.
And she loves being at home, and she'll still love to come and lay down with her daddy and sit there and talk. And man,
Oh, I love the emotion, brother. I love the emotion.
That's tough for me because I've always those are daddy's little girls, and
come on, all good, Jason, man. All love, man. Hey, listen, brother,
I've always wanted. I heard Aaron's daddy say something one time. He said, "Be the girl that a guy wants to marry."
100%.
And I've always with them tried to say, I'm not too prideful to say I hadn't always done it right. But I'm also to help guide you and lead you in the way. And I'm so thankful and so blessed to be able to say that, especially with her going off on this place. And it's almost like you're handing your child over to the world in a sense of because they're going out and she's going to come home different. But I'm so thankful that I can look at her mother when I know we drop her off and we get in the car and we come home and we say, man, we did it right.
Yes, sir.
We dropped her off right, and she knows because where so many kids, I don't think, come back home and they sit down and they go, hey, Mom, I want to talk to you about this or that. I have my children, and they come and sit down with us, and they tell everything, and we talk about everything, and we help guide them in that. And, man, I'm so thankful for that because my little girl, she just went – you talk about Louis Giglio. She just went to the Passion
Conference,
conference for the youth in Daytona.
Right. Yeah.
And Louis asked a question. He said, I want to ask a question. How many of you guys are struggling with some things or you have contemplated on taking your life?
It's a lot.
And, man, there were just hundreds of kids that raised their hand. And my little 14-year-old, she comes home and she's like, Dad, she said, I don't she was like, Daddy, so many, and she named several of the ones in her group. And, I sat there and I thought about it. I was reaching for my cell phone because a lot of the problem is that. And there's so much pressure with attention and with likes and with followers and keeping up. And I've got this or I don't have this and I don't have these things. And the Lord's allowed us to have a nice home and to have these things. But I've always tried to stay rooted and let them know and understand that this isn't ours.
Yeah.
He called me to steward this for a little bit.
Yeah.
So if the drama kids need a place to come, this is their home.
Yeah.
If the athletes need a place to come, this is their home. If the crook on the street needs a place to come and talk, this is his place. Yeah. Because this isn't mine, and I'm called just to be that representation. And I've always just tried to instill that in these guys. And they see it when the home, because Marie likes to lay up at the house and chill out. She's like, I'm going, because my mother, they're really close. She's like, I'm going to Nani's house. Because she can go over there and just lay up. Because she, who knows? I think we had 25 people there last Sunday, and the Sunday before that we had 100 and something kids from the baseball program and all the parents. But that's our heart. You know what I mean?
Man, listen, what I'm hearing from you too is talking about cultivating the next generation.
That's right.
Just like you've cultivated peanuts, like you've cultivated.
Same deal.
It is constantly doing it. And I think that the thing that I take away from it, and what I would tell you, and parents, if you're listening to this right now, if you're not having conversations with your kids, you can't have conversations with your kids. And I know that sounds like so simple and all that, but you have to have all the little ones to get to the big ones to get to the ones that really matter.
And I'll say this too, man.
You have to have lots of conversations.
Looking and seeing who's doing it right.
We need to rely on each other.
But it's also, you said something you said something a minute ago to Bmoney. Yeah. J-Money now because you
got to go to J. You got to go to J. You got to be a J.
You said something. I'm thankful. I'm really thankful because I guess years ago when coming to Christ and really starting to wrap my head around and understanding that, and then wrapping my head around and understanding accountability. and this path that I feel like the Lord's called me to walk on, and I don't play games with it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I'm not here for it. It has nothing to do with me, but I'm not going on this journey to play games about this journey and having people around me that are real.
Yeah.
I don't need a pat on the back or another. I want somebody that's going to be real with me and that's going to help push me, and help hold me accountable in that standard. And I see that with parenting and the same thing. And there's several people in Aaron and I's life that we look at and that have really been and given an example of, have we done it all right? Nah.
Yeah, no.
But I'm not too prideful to look at my kids and go, man, I just really jacked that up.
There's so many, 100%. Well, apologizing has also been a secret weapon for me. Yeah. It's something that as a parent, when I've acted poorly and I've done wrong, I apologize. Yeah. And then we talk about it. Again, you have to have conversations with your children. You have to be ready to have conversations because they're going to go out in the world. And then when they're out there, then you got to be available. You just got to be available so that they can talk to you. They can come back to you. They feel comfortable coming back to you. I mean, my kids know they can tell me anything in the world, and we'll just get through it.
We're gonna work through it.
We'll work through it, no matter how big, how bad, whatever the kind.
There's nothing you can do we can't work through.
That's right. We can work through it. Just talk to me about it. But it is. We live in a world that stuff is out there and it's tough. So again, I just want to encourage you. Again, if you are listening to this podcast. I think that's some of the things we got to do. Is find accountability or find a podcast that you're listening to that you feel like you maybe even can trust into that. You know how to get a hold of me and DM me. You would not believe how many people DM me on the backside of stuff and the conversations I have in the background from our podcast.
Imagine.
And that's cool. And I'm here for it. And I'm praying for you all the time.
Amen.
So keep doing those things, and you said it. Find people that you can look to. Find places that you can go, resources, whether it's us or it's somebody else. There's really smarter people out there sometimes than I think me, and certainly the three of us, right? But look. But it takes people coming together and saying, like, because there's things I've learned from you. I'm sure, I hope that there are things from you. I hadn't really learned a whole lot from Juice here. He's just getting started. No, there's things. Actually, Juice, by the way, he is one of the kindest people I know.
Amen.
He really is a guy that would do anything. He is a guy.
Fake news.
His heart is better than most people's heart. We don't agree on a lot of things. But we agree on more things than we don't.
Taylor Swift, come on, man.
Taylor Swift's one of them. There's lots of stuff. There's probably some politics stuff we don't always jive on too. But the thing
closed border. I do want to close.
That's another whole time.
That's another one. That's an unpopular opinion, but or popular.
Really?
However you want to go. Well, it depends on who you're looking at. There's probably 50% of our country that doesn't. But there's these debates that we have. But Juice would do anything for you, and I love that about you. Your heart is so good, and so you need to find people like that in your life that you want to have around.
Yeah, as good as the people you surround yourself
with. You really
with,
do. You really do. And we've talked about that a lot. We can't say it a lot. You've hit on it many times in this conversation, in the first segment, the second segment, and we've talked about like the people you surround yourself.
And I think you got to protect your family. My wife and I. Somebody said a quote. I'd missay it but they said, I don't know exactly who it was. They said, when you succeed or do something well, look around at those who you think are your friends that are clapping.
Oh, yeah.
And see who that is that's clapping and cheering you on.
See who's really there.
Yeah, and I've really tried to protect the home because it's, I don't know. You guys have such an awesome opportunity with what you're doing and the amount of people, you get 8,000 plus subscribers now. And I can't help, this quote just came over me thinking about it, because I've got it written in my office that your life may be the only Bible some people ever have a chance to read. And, I think about you guys and the opportunity and the influence that's going to grow and what you're going to be able to do.
We just try to put some positivity out there.
You know what
right?
I mean?
Yeah,
and really being able to encourage. And
we just want to put some positivity out there.
But there's a lot of people that you talk about direct messaging you. There's a lot of people that need somebody.
For
to help or talk to.
Hey,
not
listen,
everybody has somebody.
I'm around, and that's the thing. You can hit me up. You people know that. I've got some young guys that I mentor, and shout out to those boys, man. And that are great kids that when they were younger, would hit me up and we would talk and go through things. And, now these kids, I married one the other day.
That's so cool.
I have another one that went through Tuskegee Airmen, and he's like in like special forces flying stuff. And you got all these. I got another one that just came down with his girlfriend for vacation, and they wanted to drive all the way over here in Panama City, stay and be with us and to see him. And so I've got all kinds of those examples of even those guys that we still connect and stay together. Pouring into other people's lives is such a blessing, though. It really is. So on the flip side of that is find somebody that can pour into you. But if you are one of those people that have advice and you got things good, look around and see too who you can pour into. Because you will get more blessing out of pouring into them. Your life will be so much more enriched when you pour into them than anything you're giving them. You don't realize how much it will do. I get so much from those guys and these DMs. My faith's more enriched because when you tell somebody about your faith and you tell somebody and you challenge it and you go around and you love on somebody in that way, it strengthens your own thought process about your faith. This podcast, man, I was and I still am in sometimes. I struggle sometimes with the American church, and I struggle sometimes with the politics. And I've told people before I'm a political refugee, and I find myself sometimes a religious refugee. But this podcast sometimes I feel like has strengthened even my own faith in just the things that I go through because I'm hearing from different people.
Amen.
And like I said, I had this other guy, I had another conversation with a guy. He DM'd me and he said that he goes, because we were liking some of the same stuff, and he was kind of like, so are you where I am in faith? And I said, what do you mean? He goes like, I'm not in faith at all. I was like, well, so I'm not really there, but I get your point. Right. I'm just frustrated with some of the followers, And so I'm like, so we have again a different conversation. So it's this weird thing that happens all the time with me, and so I'm thankful. So I appreciate you saying that. I just want you to know. I've had such a great time having you on this show. It's been so much fun. We're going to move on to the Delve card section, and we're going to end up wrapping this up. Do you have a card pulled out?
No, I didn't pull one out.
You just want to pull one. I always like your song. We haven't played it in a while, so we'll pull one out. So this
Taylor
is
Swift song?
No. This is
Where are you? We're waiting patiently for what you do. Google Guru, he'll make it right. In a flash, he'll solve the fight. Oh man, he's good at poker, that's right.
And I am the best poker player.
He is number one because I took
y'all couldn't do it outside this week because it was too hot.
It's too hot, but I mean we can go if Mike's open, man. I'm glad. to go back
we
to
talked
Mike.
about it. We might do it the next month or so.
I think I totally agree. It's too hot outside. It's way too hot. You can't breathe outside.
It's bad.
The other thing I would say
it's hot in Florida.
It's supposed to be windy tomorrow too.
The other thing I'd say is I only lost my number one slot because I went on vacation. I feel like I should have a vacation, but I poured into my family and I got points taken away.
Dude,
I don't think that's fair.
3 weeks I got 27 points. That's crazy.
You played the best
I did a
poker.
9 average.
Let's just
Let's
say if I was in town, you would have had 27 points.
20, 30 because I would have had 3 additional.
I watched you go up. I was like, well, Juice will be out first next week. He's not gonna get that many.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, I was like, a 9 average is pretty tough to maintain. So
in our group to maintain that high of an average in 3 weeks.
Well, we had 18 though, 16 in the 1 week.
Yeah, like the time I'm not there, you're playing 2 tables.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
It was pretty nice. So what's the question we got here?
All right.
By the way, again, Delve Cards, DELVE, Delve Cards. Google them, Delve Cards. I think you go. Yeah,
it's a pretty cool family.
This is a family-oriented game. You get to the kitchen table. I say this all the time. You're probably tired of me saying this, but you get to the kitchen table and you sit down with your teenagers and you say, "How's your day?" And they go, "Oh, it's fine." And you have them. These cards opened so many conversations at our table. Cool. So as parents, Delve Cards. Google them, look them up. Delve Cards, you should hit me up and sponsor our show.
All right, Womack, what first world problem do you deal with most often? This is kind of a
first
tough
world.
one.
I like it. First world.
What first world problem do you deal with most often?
This is to the whole group. First world problem.
I got it.
So go.
Yeah, I
have
mine.
24 air conditioners at the buildings. And for some reason, they all wanted to quit this year. So I will say air conditioning.
First world problem.
My first world problem.
That's
a good one.
First world problem.
I cannot understand how much an air conditioner costs.
So
especially replacing 6 in one summer.
So I'm going to tell you mine. So in workout shirts, my wife bought me some of the Lululemon stuff, and I guess it has stuff because I sweat. I sweat so bad.
You're a sweater.
I'm a swetter. I sweat.
When I
worked on the garbage truck, I used to have 4 different pairs of gloves.
That's close when your friend says
they know it. They know it. They know it because
That's
it's bad because if I'm running or we're doing something outside, like it will like flick off them. It's crazy. And I used to have 3-4 different pairs of gloves when I worked on the garbage truck. And so after about an hour, I'd throw the first pair up on the dashboard so they dry, and I grab another pair.
Yeah.
And I go. And so by the time I come back, like every 30, 40 minutes, I'd have a dry pair of gloves because they would get so wet and you couldn't hold on to anything. It's a problem. It's a real problem. So Danielle bought me these Lululemon shirts that I guess they do, and I think it helps with the smell because it also smells. I sweat so
know
much.
That
I
smell because I smell like that too. It smells like
it gets bad BO
smells like
the smell.
death.
So my first world problem in it
smells like death.
I'm like lavender and wild boar, right?
Like
so the shirts though, they have this tag. If you've ever had a Lululemon workout shirt, it is a small little skinny tag that it's like 2 feet long. It feels like down the back.
2-foot tag.
It's ridiculous, and it'll pop up out of here, and it's all in your way.
It stays up, yeah.
Have you seen these? It's
my work shirts do that. It's annoying.
I absolutely hate, but it's this long skinny tag, and so then you get tired of it. So then you rip it, right? Then you don't know what's front and back. So every time you put the shirt on, you're like backwards and flipping it, and and I always put it on wrong. I mean, Lululemon, this is a problem. You should fix it. Just imprint the tag on the back of the shirt. Stop doing this.
Pretty good marketing.
That's actually not new technology.
It's not new technology. People are doing this everywhere, and you've got this 2-foot long skinny. I mean, it's skinny tag. You couldn't read it. Nobody's reading that. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So total first world problem.
They need that cotton.
I do got some Lululemon shorts on that.
So
my kids bought them for me.
They're
very comfortable. Their clothes are great.
Shorts.
Man, these things
their
are so
clothes
comfortable.
are great, but the tag's super long and skinny, right? Now shorts, it's not a big deal. You've got the drawstring, you've got whatever it is in the front, but the shirt, it looks the same front and back. So Lululemon, let's get this fixed. You know what you need to do.
You got one? I mean, I'd say my ice maker went out on my refrigerator.
That's for that.
That's first world problem.
Yeah. And then the other one I thought of was people.
Have you checked to get it fixed? Has anybody come by?
Nobody. They're like, it's a Samsung, 10 years old.
Buy the whole,
they're like, get a new one. Yeah, they're like, just throw it away.
Well, you can get one now that'll connect to your phone, and it'll just do whatever you want to do.
I don't know.
You watch it.
This is built into all this stuff now.
But see, that's where I think you've over-engineered it, right? Because I mean, then you've got your TV breaking on it. You've got it's not that deep.
It's not that deep.
I don't need the Wi-Fi radiation irradiate through my house. And the other one's people complaining about parking, the way people park in parking spaces. That's hilarious, right? They're on the line. They send a picture on Facebook.
Has that gotten big? That's gotten big.
Oh yeah. There's a local page here that people complain about parking.
Do they have?
Driving.
I knew a guy that used to have cards. It was like nice.
Yeah, they do that, dude. I'm like,
put it on there stuff.
I'm like, y'all guys, come. I know it sucks when people park bad, but you're taking pictures and posting it on the internet. Like, get a life, dude.
Get a life.
In the world. Those are the two I thought of.
I think there's just a lot.
There's a ton, yeah.
Man, I mean, social media and the hiding
the internet,
you can hide behind the keyboard warriors, man. Keyboard warriors.
Good. It's great. It's crazy. I got a buddy of mine. He's an ex-Marine. No, he's not. There's never an ex-Marine, but there's a little less talk Tifton, and they were talking about this and that, and I ate at this restaurant, and I said this, and they said all these bad things, and he wrote back, and he said, to all the people that want to post, I have no problems with you posting, I have no problems with the things you say, and I have no problems with any of that, but what I will have a problem with is there's no accountability for who you are, and so therefore I would rather you not post anything or say anything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. You just say whatever you want, and then you go and you get these fake accounts. You got all this stuff. I've had stuff like that happen to me some, and I just gotten to where I'm just deleting certain things. I'm just like I'm not. You're just not going to be a part of it. Yeah.
I don't know if this falls in. I'll say this, and this is it's outside of this area or anything, but that is a problem, and we talk of the things, how expensive they are, and how things have really changed since COVID, and we put all this monopoly money out, and I think a lot of the highest debt that there is of household debt that there has ever been is right now in history, of credit card debt and all these things, and I think we tricked everyone as to you've got all this, and a lot of people went out and spent all this.
You want to get all. It's a Joneses, man.
Created this, keeping up with the Joneses mentality. But I'll tell you, we've got a problem, and agriculture is a major issue, and the pricing and all of what agriculture is and all this. It's really, really sad. The state that we're in right now, because it's bad. I'm telling you.
I know.
Well, he told me the price of peanuts.
I don't know.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's probably a whole other pod. You're living it, and we got to get it changed.
It's bad.
Yeah,
the trade,
we got to
get tariffs, and all the things that are going on.
We got to get it fixed.
It's a bad deal.
We got to get it fixed, and families are going to get hurt. And it's not just farming families; it's American families, because if your food costs, you worry about the food costs, and that's hitting the pocketbook right there.
I got a lot of friends
of
mine, mentors, 65, 75, 85 years old. Those guys are on the verge of losing everything they've worked their whole life for, and they've done nothing different. They're not living outside their means. They've done nothing different other than
not overspending, none of that.
They live by the land. They got a garden in the backyard.
Yeah,
they don't. I mean, they're not driving new trucks.
Right.
And all the equity and everything's being taken because of
the loans they got to do to keep up with certain things just to keep the business going.
Well, the price of food's not really going up on their end. It's just everything else is going up.
Right. No. It's crazy. It's a tough world, man. It is really a tough world, and it's not. And we call it. That's not a first world problem. That is an everybody problem.
That's right.
It is. That's an everybody problem. That's an everybody problem. Well, listen, Jason, we're going to wrap this up right now. I just again want to thank you for being here. We've gone really long. I'm going to take a look at this pod, so if you're listening to this, you may very well be getting the second pod on the second time. But because I know we went normally we've gone shorter, but we've covered so many things. We've dived deep into faith. Again, I love every one of you, whether you're outside of faith or you're inside of faith. You know we love you and we respect you, and we want to have that conversation. We want you to be a part of it. I hope you got something out of this. I think there's a lot to get out of this. Yeah,
you spent 2.5 hours on Kirby Smart, bro.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it. But Jason, we had so much fun with you here and learned so much. I loved hearing all your stories. And, you've got an amazing thing going on. Again, check out holyfarms.org. Or Holyland. No, tell me again, Holylandfarms.org. Yeah. Holylandfarms.org. We'll have this posted up there. You need to check it out, holylandfarms.org. I'm super proud of what you're doing. Super proud to know you.
Thank you.
And when it's coming up, I'm coming up there to Tifton, and we're gonna go.
I'll let you know when I'm going up there.
Yeah. We need
to
go
and say this in closing to anybody that hears this or sees or looks up the website or any of that, and if anybody feels led to come and help us, it isn't my project.
100%.
It's his, and if anybody feels led to help in whatever way that looks like, we welcome anybody and everybody, because it's going to take a team and an army to finish it out and to do it. So thank you guys.
Get involved.
What a blessing to meet you.
Absolutely.
Guys.
Get involved. Get involved. Check them out. Check out the website. Go to it.
Send me a picture when Juice gets the Taylor Swift tattoo.
We're definitely going to do that. We definitely do that. So
if that happens, it's a rapture.
This is my wrap up. Listen up, kids. I grew up in Georgia. It wasn't as south as Jason Womack here, but it was south of Atlanta. And when we met people that were just hardworking, honest people, the kind of we would say they give the shirt off your back. Amen. We would say that they were the salt of the earth. We'd say that person's the salt of the earth. This phrase has its roots in a book written thousands of years ago. It tells of a talk that Jesus gave called the Sermon on the Mount. He says, "You are the salt of the earth." Salt all those years ago was valuable. The Romans used salt to trade. In fact, it's where we get the word salary. Salt was used to preserve, and salt was used to make things tasty. In fact, before he told those things and all of those things about salt, and you are the salt of the earth, he said this on that sermon. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness." So here's the challenge. Let's all strive to be more salty.
Amen.
I like it.
Or don't. What the hell do I know?
You've been listening to What the Hell Do I Know with JB. JB has worn quite a few hats. CEO, venture investor, accidental pastor of a downtown Atlanta church, board member, passive investor, and occasional public speaker. JB's passion with his show is sharing the good, the bad, and the downright absurd. Life's a mixture, right? JB has picked up some real gems along this journey. Lessons from the business world, the chaos of parenting, and the surprises of accidental leadership. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find Jason on Instagram at _Jason_Becker. Y'all be cool, and we'll see you next time.